Chapter 1303. After the previous battle in the Tian Fa Holy Land, it had already proven the effectiveness of this method, and the results were immediate. All of us were overjoyed, and felt that we were about to succeed, and that the day we advanced into the Xianhuang Empire was just around the corner. But you 4 emperors destroyed 4 of them in one go. And the 4 that had the most people. The Demon King's voice was as if he wanted to devour someone. You know that the remaining 8 places combined are not even as many as the 4 of your 4 clans. You know that very well. Now, this empress has only spoken the words in my heart, yet all of you can't hold it in any longer and have flown into a rage from embarrassment. Do you feel embarrassed? If you knew that it would be hard to be embarrassed, you would have forgotten your roots. But you guys personally let the thief in. You personally agreed to the time, and you even had to respectfully send the other party out of the palace. The Demon King's laughter shook the entire Demon King's palace. Do you know the situation now? Do you know that because you forgot your roots, the demon race has wasted hundreds of thousands of years of effort? Now, you can't even take a word of mockery. Isn't this a joke? A huge joke? Then, the Demon King roared again. Who gave you the right to be so arrogant? Who gave you the right to be so arrogant? Who gave you the right to be so proud? This emperor can tolerate your presumptuous behavior here, but think about it, as the emperor of the demon clan, what have you done? The Eagle Emperor, the Eagle Emperor, the Emperor Rock, and the Emperor Condor breathed heavily. The veins on their faces were popping out and they were sweating profusely. They clenched their fists tightly but couldn't say a word. It wasn't that they didn't feel guilty. They knew that the Demon King was right. It wasn't easy for the human captives in the underground prison to come here. Who knew how much manpower and resources had been invested in the construction of the underground prison? Just the construction alone had taken more than 3,000 years. There was also the repairs and the constant replenishment from the humans over the years. It was a huge consumption. The Eagle Emperor touched his hooked nose and said awkwardly, luckily, it hasn't been completely destroyed. The soul-devouring tree's life force has been greatly damaged. As long as we find a way to heal it, it will be able to function again. Cough, cough, cough. As he said this, he felt his face turning red. Emperor Rock and Eagle Emperor nodded. We will do our best to restore the soul-devouring tree and the array as soon as possible. The Demon Emperor replied coldly, how early is early? The Eagle Emperor coughed. 500 to 600 years. Emperor Rock coughed as well. I'm afraid 500 to 600 years isn't enough. But 600 to 700 years should be enough, the Eagle Emperor then coughed. At the very least, he will recover in 800 years, the Crane Emperor coughed. My situation is similar to theirs. The Demon Emperor felt like he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. However, he knew that these 4 emperors had lost face today. Because this matter was of great importance, they did not do anything about it. However, if he continued to pursue the matter, he was afraid that these 4 fellows would really lose face. The case of the 9 lives demonic cat was not far away. If another high-level demon emperor appeared, the power of the demon tribe would be shaken again, not to mention that there was an unknown fox emperor. Among the 5 emperors involved in the case, he was the most suspicious. Maybe he was another cat king. The demon emperor furrowed his brows and said coldly, 700 to 800 years. It might have been fine in the past, but what about now? In the battle of the Tian Fa Holy Land, because of the power of the celestial luck banner, we were brought forward by 28 years. 700 to 800 years. We would have killed our way out of that passage long ago. The 4 emperors' faces were livid, but they were speechless. They knew that this was the truth, and they would only embarrass themselves even if they tried to argue. Fortunately, the Demon Emperor did not go too far. He waved his hand and said, now that things have come to this, it's useless to scold you. After a pause, he still could not suppress his anger and said, if it's really only 800 years, I'll admit it. But who can guarantee that the array and the soul-devouring tree will recover after 800 years? Who dares? The 4 emperors were speechless again, because the demon emperor snorted. Even now, you still can't let go of that little bit of face of yours. What's the point of bragging now? 1,000 years is 1,000 years. The soul-devouring tree is already an adult tree, and now its vitality is greatly depleted. The recovery time of 1,000 years is definitely not shorter. The Eagle Emperor and the others were embarrassed for a while. They were all peak experts, so how could they not know the limit of 1,000 years? The previous 500 to 600 years, 700 to 800 years, was just an excuse to stall for time. Otherwise, what else could they say? The spirit demon emperor knocked on the table lightly and said indifferently, "What's worrying me now is that there are no clues about the spirit fox at all. This is not right. If the spirit fox is really from the spirit demon clan, and if he is really from the spirit demon clan, how could he not know the importance of the soul-devouring tree to the entire spirit demon clan? How could he destroy the great cause of the demon race? So, I suspect that the demon fox might be a human in disguise." As soon as he said this, the Eagle Emperor, Rock Emperor, and Eagle Emperor's expressions changed, and they said at the same time, "Absolutely impossible. In this world, nothing is impossible except the unimaginable." An elegant voice came from outside, and said indifferently, "I think that the possibility of the demon fox being a human is more than 90%. As the voice spoke, a man in a green robe floated in from outside. The man was 8 feet tall, handsome, and wore a green robe. Just from his appearance, he looked more like a sage of the human race. 3 strands of long beard floated in front of his chest, and he looked indescribably elegant and calm. He did not look like a demon at all. It was as if there was nothing in this world that could catch his attention and concern. He walked in leisurely, and the Eagle Emperor and the others immediately stood up to welcome him, their faces full of respect. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, Your Majesty." The man who came was as famous as the Demon Emperor and the Dragon race, the Phoenix Emperor. He was also the Demon Emperor that the Eagle Emperor and the other Demon Emperors admired and respected the most. Although the Demon Emperor was the strongest and the top of the demon race, that was only in terms of strength. Moreover, the Demon Emperor race had its own inheritance, so the other Demon Emperors were only half afraid of him, and less than half respected him. As for the other Demon Emperors, their attitudes towards the Phoenix race, especially the Phoenix Emperor himself, were completely different. The demon race had a saying, "I, the Dragon Emperor, am invincible in every battle." This saying showed the Dragon Emperor's status as the strongest in the demon race. In contrast, there was another saying, "I, the Phoenix Emperor, am the only one who can decide the fate of the world." When it came to the number 1 killing weapon of the demon race, the Phoenix Emperor's wisdom was above that of the Dragon Emperor. The Eagle Emperor and the others were very clear that if they offended the Dragon Emperor, they would just be beaten up by him, and it did not matter even if they were killed. The race could elect another Demon Emperor, and everything would still be the same. But if they offended the Phoenix Emperor, it was completely different. He could keep scheming until your entire race was completely destroyed. Back then, the Peacock race, who loved beauty, boasted that their feathers were incomparably beautiful and were even more beautiful than the Phoenix race. As a result, the two races had a conflict. One of the Phoenix Emperor's royal daughters had a conflict with the Peacock demon race at the Peacock group's base, and returned with heavy injuries for some reason. The Phoenix Emperor was furious and questioned the Peacock Emperor, but the Peacock Emperor only agreed on the surface but opposed on the inside, delaying the matter again and again. The Phoenix Emperor was furious and used all kinds of methods. Therefore, not long after, the Peacock race suddenly realized that they had become the enemy of the entire world, and they had offended all of them, the kind that could not be resolved. What's more, while the Peacock race was the enemy of the entire world, the Phoenix race perfectly stayed out of it, as if it had nothing to do with them. Under the Phoenix Sovereign's ruthless attacks, the Flying race, which had been one of the 12 sovereigns of the demon race for a long time, had been reduced to a mere 2 or 3 of them. They had almost followed in the footsteps of the 9 Lives Cat race. Such methods caused the demon emperors of the various races to tremble with fear. He would rather offend the Dragon King and die than offend the Phoenix Empress. At this moment, the publicly acknowledged top sage of the demon race had finally arrived. If Yin Yang had been here, he would have cried out in surprise no matter how composed he was. This was because the Phoenix Sovereign's face was identical to his old rival in Tianxian continent, the god of wine, Feng Xianga, or Mr. Nian. As the Phoenix Monarch entered, the Wolf Monarch, Bear Monarch, Tiger Monarch, Panther Monarch, and the other monarchs of the various races also entered in a single file. No less than a dozen sovereigns entered one after another. All the sovereigns of the various clans of the demon race had gathered together. For a time, the hall was filled with greetings. The Eagle Sovereign, the Crane Sovereign, the Rock Sovereign, and the Eagle Sovereign were the first to bear the brunt. The demon sovereigns of the various races stepped forward to greet them. "Yo, Your Majesty the Eagle Emperor, I heard that you personally let the demon fox into the prison grounds to destroy the arrangements. I'm impressed. Ah, Your Majesty Emperor Rock is here as well. I thought that Emperor Rock had gone to pursue the culprit. I never expected him to be so relaxed. I'm ashamed of my inferiority to his mental state, Yo, Your Majesty Eagle Emperor." The fourth sovereign's veins were throbbing with rage, but he could only remain silent. This was because the Phoenix Monarch's eyes had been looking in their direction, intentionally or otherwise. They really did not have the confidence to beat up the other sovereigns under the gaze of this pair of eyes. It was already wrong to do so. If they were to force it, the problem would be even more serious. "Phoenix Monarch, take the seat of honor." The Demon Monarch beckoned. The friendship between the Demon Monarch and the Phoenix Monarch was different from that of the other sovereigns. They were sworn brothers and had always been close brothers for so many years. They had never had a conflict. It was also thanks to the Phoenix clan's support that the Dragon clan could sit firmly on the seat of honor of the demon race. The Phoenix Monarch sat down calmly and said with a faint smile, "We've suffered a great loss this time, but there's no need to be too anxious. No matter how anxious we are, we can't turn the situation around. Speaking of which, although today's incident has delayed the demon race's entry into the bound of universe for another 1,000 years, it's not necessarily a bad thing to analyze it in detail." The Demon Monarch said in surprise, "What do you mean by that, brother? Please elaborate." The Phoenix Emperor smiled faintly. "Back then, in order to set up this grand sky-stealing formation, our demon race expended a lot of resources. Many experts even expended countless years of their lifespans in the process of setting up this formation. If we open up the passageway now, it might not be a good thing. We've been painstakingly setting up this sky and essence stealing formation for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, the effect is remarkable, but the demon race has also paid a great price for it. Their strength has been greatly reduced, while the human race has not lost many experts in this long period of time. Even though they have slackened their fighting spirit because of the long period of peace, but their foundation is vast, and their overall strength is much higher than ours. Even if the human race's population is not as large as the demon race's, and their individual combat strength is not as strong as our race's, but when it comes to top combat strength, they definitely have more than us. And the real key to victory between the two sides is the number of top combat strength. The best result would be a Pyrrhic victory for us, but our top combat strength would be wiped out, and we would have to be wary of the human experts who are scattered among the people at all times. Now that there's such an incident, there's an additional 1,000 years of buffer time for both sides. The human race will only slack off because of the more comfortable time, but the demon race can make use of this period of time to nurture more talents, so, although this incident is not a good thing, the outcome might not be too bad. Everyone, there's no need to be too devoted to it. It's hard to let it go." The Phoenix Emperor's tone was extremely soothing, but it was accompanied by a calming power. After all the monarchs heard this, they could not help but feel much more at ease. They were a lot happier. Especially the Eagle Emperor and the others. They felt as if a huge stone had been lifted from their hearts, and even their breathing was smooth. Now, let's talk about the topic I mentioned just now. It's the key figure in this incident. That demon fox is a human. I can confirm that. The Phoenix Emperor said slowly, actually, it's only a so-so to confirm the other party's identity. There are 3 things that really make me question. Firstly, how did this human come here, and how did he pass through the Blood Soul Mountain? Secondly, the various methods of this human are too mysterious. They directly target the demon's heart, causing the demon involved to be unable to resist. As for the third thing, this person's way of doing things is watertight. He can predict the enemy's moves in advance, planning before taking action. He can be said to be an extremely dangerous person. And according to the information I have, no humans can enter or leave the areas guarded by the various races. The only uncertainty is the fox race. I don't want to suspect any of my comrades, but now, the Phoenix Emperor said, forget it. Let's wait for Nine-Tailed White to arrive first. When that time comes, everything will be clear. The Dragon Emperor snorted and said, Nine-Tailed White's role in this incident is almost certain. What else is there to say? The Phoenix Emperor frowned and said seriously, Your Majesty, you must not jump to conclusions. Nine-Tailed White will never betray the demon race. I can guarantee for him on this point. I've already said that everything will be clear when he arrives. I'll say this solemnly here. Do not anger him and harm the demon race. The Dragon Emperor's expression was a little strange. He coughed and said, I don't think he will dare to come. Now, everything points to him. The Phoenix Emperor's expression turned serious. He suddenly asked, Your Majesty, have you already sent someone to capture Nine-Tailed White? The Dragon Emperor coughed awkwardly and avoided her gaze. Since he is a suspect, shouldn't we capture him? The Phoenix Emperor's expression turned ugly. How long has he been gone? It has been 4 days. The Dragon Emperor coughed again. The Phoenix Emperor sighed deeply and said seriously, Your Majesty, what you did with the cat ancestor back then was already too much. It caused the demon race to completely lose the 9 Lives Cat clan. Now, are you going to repeat the same mistake? His voice was heavy. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan is not like the 9 Lives Cat clan. Once it changes, it will cause an unprecedented event for the demon race. It might even affect the survival of the entire demon race. He then closed his eyes and sensed for a while. Suddenly, his expression changed. May I ask who did you send to carry out the mission, Your Majesty? The Dragon Emperor stared. It was Elder Green Dragon who volunteered to go. Elder Green Dragon? The Phoenix Emperor's face turned pale. He said angrily, How could Your Majesty be so foolish to send him? He and the Fox Emperor have always been enemies. They were rivals in love back then. Chapter 1304. The Dragon Emperor pursed his lips and said, How many years has it been? I have long. I have already been gone for 4 days, I guess by now. As he spoke, his face was filled with regret. He had really been negligent about this matter. The Phoenix Emperor stomped his feet as beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He said, This is bad. I have to make a trip there personally. I just hope that things are not out of hand. He stood up and said, There is no time to lose. I will make a trip there immediately. We will talk about everything else after I return. Before he finished speaking, his body moved and a ball of flame appeared where he was standing. Then, a 7-colored light flashed in the sky and the Phoenix Emperor disappeared without a trace. Only his words were left in the sky. Eagle Emperor and the rest, listen up. If His Majesty wants to punish you, you can fight it out with him. I will back you up. The Eagle Emperor and the rest smiled bitterly. We don't dare. But the Phoenix Emperor was already far away. Even though his voice was just a few feet away, his figure was already tens of thousands of miles away. The movement speed of the Phoenix race had always been the fastest among the demon race. Even the eagle, roc, and crane races that were also known for their speed had to admit their inferiority. Especially the Phoenix Emperor, who had fused his innate fire attribute special ability with his movement technique to deduce an extremely fast movement technique. He was truly the #1 demon in the demon race. As for his last sentence, it showed that he was still worried about the Dragon Emperor, who had always been used to using strength to convince others. He was worried that this hot-tempered Dragon Emperor would say something to agitate the Eagle Emperor and the rest, so he left a message to appease him. But he did not know that before he came, he had already agitated the Dragon Emperor several times. But with this sentence, even if the Dragon Emperor really did something, the Eagle Emperor and the rest would not really be angry and fall out with him. This was the power of the Phoenix Emperor, the absolute king of the flying races. Once the Phoenix token was out, all the birds would bow their heads. The Dragon Emperor's expression was very complicated. He could not help but touch his head and sighed as if he was a little regretful. Why can't I change my hot-tempered temper? I can only hope that the Phoenix Emperor can make it in time. The demon sovereigns of the various races were also speechless. The Phoenix Sovereign looked very anxious. He had just used his unique technique, Nirvana Fire Escape. This was a supreme movement technique that the Phoenix Emperor deduced with the Phoenix clan's unique secret technique, the Rebirth Flame, as its foundation, and once one's cultivation attained the Phoenix Emperor's level, one could instantly tear through space for an extremely long distance when executing the Rebirth Flame movement, and its speed was peerless. Although the nine-tailed fox was quite a distance away from Demon Imperial City, as long as she used the Nirvana Fire Escape twice consecutively, she would be able to reach there easily. All the demons had the same thought and heaved a huge sigh of relief. This was the difference between the Dragon Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor. The moment the Dragon Monarch appeared, all the sovereigns were filled with rage, and they wanted nothing more than to fight to the death to vent their anger. However, once the Phoenix Monarch appeared, no matter how chaotic the situation was, it would instantly be stabilized. However, when they thought of the words, Elder Azure Dragon and the Fox Emperor are sworn enemies, and they are also rivals in love, all of the emperors wore strange expressions. In the entire Demon Peacock Emperor's realm, apart from the Dragon Clan, all the other demon clans could only marry within their own clan. However, the Dragon Clan was different. The union between two members of the Dragon Clan would naturally give birth to a pure-blooded Dragon Clan. However, the union between other clans would give birth to dragon horses, dragon fish, dragon foxes, dragon eagles, those belonged to drakes. The Eagle Monarch coughed and said, "Dragons are lustful by nature." Fortunately, His Majesty the Demon Emperor only has a harem of less than 15,000, and he can still restrain himself. Otherwise, it would be a little troublesome. All the demon emperors burst into laughter. They wanted to laugh, but they did not dare to do so. The demon emperors were speechless. Just 2 hours ago, 10 great sage experts from the Dragon Imperial Palace had already arrived at the Blood Soul Mountain. Among them were 5 great sages of the Dragon Clan and 5 great sages of the Phoenix Clan. They all belonged to the Demon Emperor's first law enforcement team, and each of them had the status of a law enforcement elder. Even if they were members of the royal family, they had the authority to act first and report later. They were indeed of high status and power. And this time, they had sent 10 of them at once. It was obvious that they valued the Fox Emperor greatly. The Blood Soul Mountain was still as majestic as ever. The 10 great sage law enforcement team immediately went to the Fox Emperor's palace. Where is the nine-tailed fox? However, the nine-tailed fox emperor had already gone to the peak of the Blood Soul Mountain to fight as usual. He was not in the palace. He was not there once, and he was not there again. The 10 great sages remembered the Demon Emperor's orders. The Green Dragon Elder ordered, "Take him down first, then we will judge." The great sages did not hesitate to attack when they thought of the Demon Emperor's orders. But the moment they attacked, the Green Dragon Elder pressed down with one hand and shouted, "Do not cause any casualties." He then shouted, "Dragon and Phoenix Cage." In the sky, a golden dragon and a colorful phoenix suddenly appeared. Then, a beam of light suddenly shrouded them. Endless power suddenly descended from the sky, directly sealing the entire Fox Emperor's palace inside, imprisoning all the experts of the Fox Emperor's palace. Even the children of the Fox Emperor's concubines were captured. Vaguely, they could hear a shrill, angry howl. But then, it was sealed. However, although the law enforcement sage Monarch had a high position and was even more powerful, this place was the headquarters of the Fox clan after all, and there were peak experts overseeing it. With a few explosions, 7 or 8 sage monarchs of the Fox clan struggled to break free from their shackles and shouted, "Dragon and Phoenix law enforcement team? What crime did the Fox race commit that you need to mobilize the Dragon and Phoenix law enforcement team?" Other than the 7 or 8 second-grade great sages of the Fox race who had already broken free, there were still 10 weaker first-grade great sages who were attacking the Dragon and Phoenix cage crazily. "Let us out. The Fox race has been fighting for the demon race against the human race for many years. We have fought tirelessly. What did we do wrong?" Countless Fox race experts shouted at the same time, "What did we do wrong?" A green dragon elder's dragon roar shook the world. The Fox Emperor colluded with the human race and plotted against us. He wanted to destroy the millions of years of foundation of the demon race. We are here on the Emperor's orders to capture and interrogate him. The Demon Emperor has ordered that anyone who disobeys can be killed on the spot. A second-grade great sages of the Fox race howled in grief and indignation. He flew into the air and said, "Nonsense. Why would our Emperor betray the demon race and collude with the human race? He is obviously trying to pin a crime on us. Does the Demon Emperor want to repeat what happened to the 9 Lives Cat clan? You still dare to quibble? Take him down." The green dragon elder hollered and was the first to attack. His first move was a ruthless one. The 8 great sages of the Fox race howled at the same time. "Don't panic, Your Highness. We will ask for the return of our Emperor immediately." One of the great sages of the Fox race, whose 9 tails were divided into 9 different colors, roared, "Hold them off. I will go to the Crimson Soul Mountain to ask for the return of our Emperor immediately." Actually, the leader of the great sages of the Fox race had crushed his token to inform the Fox Emperor at the first instance. However, for some reason, there was no response from the Fox Emperor. Of course, they did not know that the Fox Emperor had already passed his token to Yun Yang. Naturally, they could not receive any news at this time. However, there was no reply from the Fox Emperor. This caused the experts of the Fox race to panic. Could it be that something had happened to our Emperor? Could it be that the Demon Emperor was really going to kill the Fox race? Yes, if they couldn't take down our Emperor, how would they dare to attack the Fox race like this? There was no room for negotiation at all. The Fox race had always been a suspicious race. Faced with such a situation, they could not help but let their thoughts run wild. Almost immediately, they thought of the old incident with the 9 Lives Cat clan. Could it be that the Fox race was going to follow in their footsteps? No, they could not sit and wait for death. Rebellion. The Demon Emperor's token. Kill without mercy. It was as if the Fox race had heard a bolt from the blue. Every expert's face was filled with grief and despair. The 8 great sages soared into the sky at the same time, roaring in grief and indignation, "Everyone in the Fox race, listen up. All the Fox race, protect the palace. Fight to the death. Even if we die. Save the Empress. Save the Prince. The legacy of the Fox race, the glory of the generations, all rests on this. We will not regret it even if we die 9 times." From all directions, earth-shattering roars rang out at the same time. The 8 great armies of the Fox clan responded at the same time, quickly gathering towards the imperial palace, their imposing aura surging forward. In the Dragon and Phoenix cage. At all costs. Charge out. The Fox Empress, who was trapped in the Dragon and Phoenix cage, roared. Explode it. Over a dozen holy venerables gathered together with grief and indignation. They held hands and roared in grief and indignation, "We will open a path for Her Highness. Everyone, I'm counting on you." The 15 holy venerates charged out together without any hesitation. All the essence blood in their bodies suddenly gathered at this moment and exploded. They self-destructed on the walls of the dragon and phoenix cage. A total of 15 holy venerables had decided to self-detonate. The power of the explosion was earth-shattering. Even the dragon and phoenix cage had a large hole blasted open in it. "Kill!" A hoarse roar rang out. The fox race experts in the palace also took this opportunity to rush out. At this moment, there was no time to say anything else. All of them attacked the 10 dragon and phoenix enforcers with all their might, with red eyes and tears flowing down their faces. There was only one thought in the tsunami-like voice: revenge. The azure dragon elder was enraged. He roared, "The fox race has rebelled. The fox race has indeed rebelled. Brothers, follow me to kill the enemy." Unbeknownst to him, the other Saint Monarchs only had one thought. This matter seemed to be a little too hasty. Before they could even say a few words, the Green Dragon Elder had sealed off the Fox Imperial Palace and imprisoned the Fox clan's royal family. Then, for some reason, when a few great monarchs came out and asked a few questions, their expressions changed drastically. Then, they were filled with grief and indignation, and started fighting. Now, the other party's army had moved out. 15 holy venerables self-destructed and forcefully broke the dragon and phoenix cage. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. It was as if only a very short amount of time had passed. The entire situation was already out of control. It was extremely bad. The Azure Dragon Elder roared. A giant azure dragon image suddenly appeared in the sky. It roared at the sky. "Fox race, you disregarded the Emperor's orders and disobeyed your superiors. Are you really going to rebel?" One of the Fox race Saint Monarchs saw the azure dragon in the sky. He immediately transformed into his 9-tailed form and pounced over fiercely. "Our Fox race has always wanted to rebel against the demon race. Now, it is you who want to do it. What are you doing now? You came here to denounce us for no reason. After you came, you didn't say a word. You didn't explain things clearly. You directly imprisoned the royal family of the Fox race. You even killed countless elites of the Fox race. Your ambition is obvious. Azure Dragon, you are the one who is causing trouble now." The Azure Dragon Elder's face was cold. "I am following the orders of the Demon King. The Fox Emperor betrayed the demon race. His crime cannot be forgiven. This is irrefutable evidence." *T. The Fox race Saint Monarch scolded. "Your actions are the ones who betray the demon race. Our Fox race has even settled our own race beside the Blood Soul Mountain. We have been fighting day and night. We have never slacked off for millions of years. If we wanted to rebel, we would have done it long ago. Why wait until now? The Fox Emperor has moved the entire Fox race to the Blood Soul Mountain. This is the irrefutable evidence of his treachery. Once the time is ripe, he will escape the demon race and return to the human race. It is laughable that you are still in the dark. Or perhaps, all of you know what is going on." The Azure Dragon Elder roared in anger. As he spoke, the two Saint Monarchs had already approached each other quickly. Without saying anything, they started to fight. The power of the two Saint Monarchs was not to be underestimated. The surrounding space kept collapsing. Although the cultivation of these two was high, they were obviously not as good as the Fox Emperor and Hibuyu. They were far from being able to control their power as they wished. As they clashed with each other, they created countless aftershocks that affected a wide area and caused great destruction. And these two continued to scold each other as they fought. "Azure Dragon, you must give us an explanation. You must pay the price. Otherwise, even if our Fox race fights to the front of the Demon King, we will not let this matter rest. Just you wait." What a joke. What kind of explanation do a bunch of traitors want? Price? I will give you an explanation right now. Use your life to get it. At this moment, it was not just the Azure Dragon Elder. The other Saint Monarchs were also fighting each other. This place was the headquarters of the Fox race. Even if they could not produce 10 second-grade Saint Monarchs, their advantage in numbers was enough to make up for this weakness. The other 9 Saint Monarchs from the Imperial Law Enforcement team did not even have time to speak before they were surrounded by the Fox race experts. Even with the combined strength of 9 second-grade Saint Monarchs, and the secret techniques of the Dragon and Phoenix race, they still did not have the slightest advantage. Furthermore, the Fox race's reinforcements continued to arrive. From afar, there were Saint Monarchs who broke through the space and joined the battle. There were also over 100 Saint Venerables. Although they couldn't participate in the battle between Saint Monarchs, they could gather their strength in the periphery. A single Saint Venerable was powerless against a Saint Monarch, but there were over 100 Saint Venerables gathered in one place. Even a second-grade Saint Monarch wouldn't be able to withstand the combined attacks of 100 Saint Venerables. Furthermore, if a Saint Venerable were to get close and launch a self-detonating attack, the Saint Monarchs from the Imperial Law Enforcement team were still fearful of the self-destruction of the Saint Venerables. They knew that they were not as sturdy as the Dragon and Phoenix Seal. Even the Dragon and Phoenix Seal could be broken, let alone themselves. Further outside, there were countless Fox race troops that were quickly mobilized over. Below, a luxurious and graceful figure soared into the sky. His eyes were filled with tears, and he was carrying a corpse in a bright yellow robe. He shouted, "No matter what the reason is, we must kill these bastards and take revenge for my son." The one who had been killed was a corpse dressed in a bright yellow robe. It was the Crown Prince of the Fox clan. A casual attack from the Azure Dragon Elder had actually killed the Crown Prince of the Fox race. No one knew if it was a coincidence or a misfortune. Azure Dragon. You. The few Saint Monarchs from the Imperial Law Enforcement team who had come along were astonished and shouted. At this moment, the few experts that had come with the Azure Dragon Elder had also sensed that the situation was not normal. Azure Dragon's actions were too proactive. Or perhaps it should be said, too excessive. Chapter 1305. The 7 great sages muttered in their hearts. This Azure Dragon seemed to be behaving rather strangely today. The moment he arrived, he attacked without even finishing his sentence. Furthermore, his attack was so coincidental. In such an instant, he killed the Crown Prince of the Fox clan. They were in the Fox clan's palace now. Even if the Fox Emperor was a suspect, he had not been convicted yet. What kind of explanation did he have for killing his son? Even if he was the leader of the law enforcement team and had a high status, he did not have such authority. Everything that had happened was simply too strange. Could there really be such a coincidence? Ever since the Demon Fox incident, the lazy Azure Dragon had volunteered to take up the task. He had rushed all the way here and used the excuse to kill. Everything was unusual. It was as if he was afraid that the Fox clan would not rebel. A strange light flashed in Elder Azure Dragon's eyes. He roared into the sky, "Fox Empress! Are you trying to drag the entire Fox clan into a place of eternal damnation? This is the order of the Demon Emperor. You dare to disobey?" The Fox Empress' beautiful face was filled with grief and indignation. So what if it's the order of the Demon Emperor? Even if my Fox clan really rebelled, the evidence is irrefutable and irrefutable. There must be a public trial of the various clans. How can we allow you to kill as you wish? Azure Dragon, you immediately killed us the moment you arrived. What is your intention? Elder Azure Dragon shouted, "The Fox clan has rebelled and ruined the plans of the Demon clan for hundreds of thousands of years. The evidence is irrefutable and the entire clan should be executed." The Fox Empress laughed coldly and said, "You have irrefutable evidence? Then what else is there to say? Kill them all and leave none alive. Take revenge for my son." Before she finished her sentence, she personally took action and flew over. Tears of blood flowed from her eyes. Her graceful and beautiful face was pale and crazy. However, as she rushed over, the 9 heavens suddenly became densely covered with lightning. Then, the lightning flashed and struck down in a frenzy. The Fox Empress was also a great sage. Although she was only at the beginner stage of the Great Sage, she had the Fox clan's secret technique, and her strength was above that of an ordinary second-grade Great Sage. Previously, when she was trapped by the dragon and phoenix seal, it was because the person who came was indeed a member of the Imperial Law Enforcement team and was definitely not a fake one. Thus, she naturally did not have her guard up. After that, everything happened too quickly, and she was even more unprepared. Furthermore, it was also because Elder Azure Dragon and the others were very powerful, and the Dragon and Phoenix Seal was a secret technique that the Dragon and Phoenix clans had meticulously created. Its power was unparalleled, and that was why the Fox Empress was restrained in one move. Now that her son had perished and the seal was no longer there, both parties had seen through the pretense of cordiality. How could the Fox Empress let the murderer who killed her son off? Naturally, she also ruthlessly retaliated. With the Fox Emperor not around, the Fox Empress was the highest decision-maker of the Fox clan. Furthermore, with the Crown Prince's death and Elder Azure Dragon's declaration that the entire Fox clan should be exterminated, their hearts were united against a common enemy. Naturally, they gathered together to attack. In an instant, the battle became more and more intense. The group of Fox clan was in a state of frenzy, and all of them rushed forward with bloodshot eyes. Every expert of the Fox clan was fighting with their lives on the line. That shout of not hesitating to die had already shocked all the demons of the Imperial Law Enforcement team. However, the Fox clan's attack had yet to stop. Below the battle in the sky, the Fox clan's royal army's formation had already quickly taken shape. On the ground, the neat formation had already formed a huge arrowhead. Endless demonic aura was rapidly brewing and gathering in the sky. The various army commanders immediately gave the order to attack. Combine forces. With a response from below, the immensity sea shook. Attack. As the word attack was given, the army launched an attack as a group. Countless powers gathered in the sky and formed a huge spear that was thousands of feet long. It was overflowing with a dazzling brilliance as it whizzed over. Its speed was extremely fast. Almost as soon as it was formed, it had already reached below Elder Azure Dragon's huge dragon body. Elder Azure Dragon saw that the spear was coming at him aggressively and did not dare to be careless. His dragon claw borrowed the force from the side to counterattack. However, the huge spear's power was extraordinary. Elder Azure Dragon's full-force counterattack actually did not budge. With a loud boom, the spear hit him head-on. Elder Azure Dragon immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and sustained serious injuries. This was the combined attack of the entire army of more than 100,000 soldiers. Even though Elder Azure Dragon's cultivation was deep and had already reached the peak of second-grade Saint Monarch, he still could not withstand the combined attack of more than 100,000 experts and was injured on the spot. And this attack was just the beginning. With the success of this attack, the orders to launch an attack came one after another, and it was endless. Combine forces. Attack. Blood-colored spears quickly took shape and shot into the sky one after another like bloody rainbows. The entire Fox race, including the Fox Empress, had a total of 15 saints in the sky. They had attracted the majority of the Imperial Law Enforcement team's attention. With the help of many Saint Venerables watching from the outside, they were ready to take action. Even though the Imperial Law Enforcement team was stronger, they were still firmly pinned down in the sky. Meanwhile, the Fox clan's joint attack had produced an exceptionally stunning performance, causing Elder Qinglong and the other great monarchs to be injured very quickly. Furthermore, they were continuously being injured. The situation was gradually becoming disadvantageous for the royal clan's law enforcement team, and it was becoming more and more disadvantageous. Elder Azure Dragon howled into the sky. The Fox race's rebellion is already a foregone conclusion. We have to kill our way out and inform the demon sovereign of this matter." Before he finished his sentence, his entire body was covered in a brilliant golden light. His body, which was already several thousand feet long, actually grew by another 3 times. "Those who block me shall die." With a loud boom, the 2 fox saints in front of him were sent flying. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. Shaking their heads and wagging their tails, they let out a dragon roar. "Charge out!" Elder Azure Dragon was the leader of the Imperial Law Enforcement team. His cultivation was also the highest among all the demons. When he suddenly used the dragon race's secret technique, its power increased greatly. For a moment, none of the demons were able to withstand it. He actually managed to forcefully create an opening. Seeing that the Imperial Law Enforcement team, led by Elder Azure Dragon, was about to take the opportunity to escape, a cold voice suddenly rang out. "Charge out? Where are you going?" A huge white jade-like hand suddenly appeared in midair. It grew larger and larger until it was like a huge mountain pressing down on them. Facing the huge hand, Elder Azure Dragon, who was the first to bear the brunt of the attack, let out a miserable howl. He spat out a rain of blood as his huge body fell from the sky. The golden light in the sky intensified again. It was the Fox Sovereign's figure in midair. He shouted sternly, "All of you, stop." It was also at this moment that the space cracked again. The great sage who had previously gone to report also appeared behind the Fox Sovereign. His eyes were spitting fire as he stared at the Fox Sovereign. The power of the Fox Sovereign's palm shocked everyone present. With a shout, the battle that had already reached its climax immediately stopped. Looking at the Fox Palace that had already been reduced to ruins, the Fox Sovereign's eyes flashed with fire. He then turned his head and looked at the great sages who were still fighting. The Fox Sovereign's voice was filled with coldness. "What happened?" These 4 words were like a bone-chilling wind that blew down from the snowy mountains in the far north. With a flash, the Fox Empress appeared in front of the Fox Sovereign. Her tears fell like rain. She hugged the corpse of a 7-tailed white fox and trembled all over. "Save you, Save you, quick." Suddenly, her cherry lips opened, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Although the Fox Empress's cultivation was not weak, she was much weaker than the demons from the Royal Law Enforcement team. She had already been agitated because of the death of her child. She had also forcefully held on and led the charge to attack the Azure Dragon Elder and the other demons. She had already been severely injured. Now that she saw the Fox Sovereign return, she could no longer hold on. When the Fox Sovereign saw this, he instantly trembled all over. Looking at his son's stiff body, he suddenly saw stars. His body actually swayed a few times in midair. He was one of the few almighties in the world. How could he not see that his own son had already been destroyed in both body and spirit? There was nothing he could do. Who did this? Azure Dragon. The Fox Sovereign suddenly turned his head and roared, "Azure Dragon." This roar split the sky, and several snowy mountains that were thousands of miles away immediately collapsed. Behind the Fox Sovereign, tens of thousands of feet of golden flames burned the sky. His figure suddenly flashed, and he appeared in front of Azure Dragon. His eyes burned with killing intent, and he grabbed Azure Dragon's huge body. The next moment, he grabbed Azure Dragon Elder's body and returned to midair. He lowered his head, looked into Azure Dragon Elder's eyes, and said word by word, "Why?" At this moment, the Fox Sovereign's aura was extremely violent. The stars in his eyes were also exploding one by one, filled with killing intent. Azure Dragon Elder's cultivation was profound, and he could already be ranked among the strongest in the world. However, in the hands of the Fox Sovereign, he could not even struggle. He tried his best to widen his eyes and mouth, and said fiercely, "Traitor, all demons shall be killed together." The Fox Sovereign laughed bitterly, but his voice was frighteningly calm. He said, "I only want to ask you, did the Demon Sovereign give the order?" Azure Dragon Elder said fiercely, "His Majesty has given the order." If the Fox Sovereign does not agree, he can be killed on the spot. One of the enforcers beside him was shocked and shouted, "It's not like that, it's not like that. Your Majesty, there's a misunderstanding in this matter. His Majesty, the Demon Sovereign is still waiting for you." The other demons of the royal enforcers had to speak up, but they did not dare to. If they were in their peak condition, the 10 of them could definitely fight with the Fox Sovereign, and they could even win. However, they were facing the attacks of the entire Fox clan, and their battle strength had been reduced by more than 30%. Among them, Azure Dragon Elder, who had the highest cultivation, had fallen into the hands of the Fox Sovereign. Once the Fox Sovereign decided to kill them, none of them would be able to escape, and they would all die here. The Fox Sovereign took a deep breath and said calmly, "Misunderstanding." Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed Azure Dragon Elder's body. He grabbed onto a dragon tendon, and immediately tied a knot in his hand. He murmured, "Misunderstanding." He exerted force in his hand, and forcefully pulled the dragon tendon out of Azure Dragon Elder's body. Azure Dragon Elder's shrill cry resounded through the sky. No matter how powerful a cultivator was, having their strength sealed, and having their tendon pulled out while they were still alive was an unbearable pain. At this moment, there was a flash of fire in the sky, and a wave of heat suddenly surged over. A green-robed figure suddenly appeared in mid-air with a whoosh. It was the Phoenix Sovereign. The moment the Phoenix Sovereign appeared, he saw the miserable state of the Fox clan. He saw the collapsed palace, the enraged Fox Sovereign, the sorrowful Fox Empress, and all the Fox clan cultivators who were already extremely furious, as well as the Fox clan army that had gathered below. He instantly felt a sense of helplessness in his heart. No matter how fast he rushed, he was still a step too late. But fortunately, from the looks of it, there were not many casualties. Most of them were just injured. As for the collapse of the palace, it was even more of a small matter. As long as the Fox Sovereign and Fox Empress were fine, then they would basically be fine. If there was still a chance to salvage the situation, then he would do his best to salvage the situation. He definitely could not allow the demon clan to lose another arm. "Brother Fox, please calm down." The Phoenix Sovereign stood opposite the Fox Sovereign, several hundred feet away. He did not move and placed his hands behind his back, indicating that he had no intention of attacking. He said amiably, "Brother Fox, please listen to me." The Fox Sovereign's gaze was cold, and his face was filled with murderous intent. His killing intent did not lessen at all because of the Phoenix Sovereign's arrival. He did not even bat his eyelids. Without even looking at the Phoenix Sovereign, he said indifferently, "Seems like it was indeed the Demon Sovereign who gave the order to kill. Now, even the Phoenix Sovereign is here to capture the traitor?" As he spoke, he did not relax his grip at all. The Azure Dragon's tendon was still being pulled out from his body, inch by inch. Azure Dragon Elder's shrill cries grew louder and louder. It was earth-shattering and hair-raising. There are no traitors in the demon clan. Brother Fox is even less of a traitor. The Phoenix Sovereign said amiably, "Brother Fox, we have been brothers for hundreds of thousands of years. Can you let me have a chance to speak?" The Fox Sovereign chuckled and threw the Crown Prince's corpse over. He said indifferently, "Brother Phoenix, we have been brothers for hundreds of thousands of years. Can you let your nephew have a chance to live?" "Nephew." The Phoenix Sovereign looked at the white fox's corpse that was thrown over. Especially that eye-catching bright yellow robe, he felt as if his head was about to explode. This was the Crown Prince of the Fox clan? The Phoenix Sovereign knew very well that although the Fox Sovereign had many children, the only one that he doted on was the prince born by the Fox Sovereign and the Fox Empress. He only had one child. He was the legitimate Crown Prince of the Demon Clan. He only had one Princess Jade. The Fox Sovereign treated it like a treasure, and the Fox Empress treated it more than her life. And this Crown Prince of the Fox Clan did not let down his parents' love and expectations. He was extremely intelligent, courageous, and farsighted. The Fox clan saw him as the rising star of the entire clan. After the Fox Sovereign, the Fox clan could still dominate the demon realm for hundreds of thousands of years. This was because of this genius crown prince of the Fox clan. But now, there were almost no Fox clan members who had died in this battle. But why did this crown prince have to die? Was this a coincidence, or was it too much of a coincidence? In that instant, the Phoenix Sovereign's head doubled in size. Green veins popped out on his forehead. He suddenly turned to look at Elder Azure Dragon. The killing intent in his eyes was no longer concealed. It was not inferior to the Fox King's. This was done by Azure Dragon? The Phoenix Sovereign had already gone mad from anger. Although it was a question, his tone was very certain. Other than Azure Dragon, there would not be a second person. The Fox Sovereign continued to slowly pull out the dragon tendon. He smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Phoenix, if it were any other matter, would definitely give you face. But today, your face is useless." He laughed loudly, his voice shaking the heavens. With a long howl, he said fiercely, "I don't care what the reason is. Today, don't say that your face is useless. Even if the Demon Emperor and the Demon Empress are here personally, their face is also useless." He finally raised his head and looked straight at the Phoenix Sovereign. "Do you understand?" The Phoenix Sovereign looked up to the sky and sighed. He was speechless for a long time. Remember the mobile website, Chapter 415, Death Your Face is Useless. Page 1/1, bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 1306. The Fox Emperor's eyes were filled with madness and brutality. There was also an icy coldness that made it seem as if he did not care about anyone. The Phoenix Emperor instantly came to a realization. He understood that although the Fox Emperor was still talking to him, this was just an instinctive behavior that he had developed over a long period of time as an emperor. In reality, the current Fox Emperor had completely lost his rationality. He needed to vent, and the way to vent was revenge. The first target of revenge was naturally the person directly involved in this matter, Elder Azure Dragon. Azure Dragon's long dragon tendon was extracted bit by bit, inch by inch. The Fox Emperor did not increase the strength of the dragon tendon extraction. The Fox Emperor's meaning was very clear. Azure Dragon had to pay the price. The heaviest price. Killing him with a single palm strike and destroying his soul was too light a punishment. Living a life worse than death was the Fox Emperor's revenge on Azure Dragon, and this was only the beginning. However, this was not the main point that the Phoenix Emperor was concerned about. Azure Dragon's death was destined. This was inevitable. However, would the Fox Emperor's target of revenge be limited to Azure Dragon? If it was not limited to just this, that would be the situation that the Phoenix Emperor would not be happy to see. The Phoenix Emperor flashed and appeared beside the Fox Empress. He lightly patted her with his palm, and an extremely pure demonic aura instantly healed the Fox Empress meridians that were about to collapse. "Sister-in-law, how much of your soul did you manage to protect?" This was the most important thing at the moment, or perhaps the only bargaining chip that could salvage some of the situation. You was struck by the soul-exterminating palm. A mouthful of blood seeped out from the corner of the Fox Empress' mouth. She closed her beautiful eyes, and tears streamed down her face. This happened too suddenly. Azure Dragon's attack was too fast and too ruthless. It happened right before my eyes. Even though I used all my strength, I only managed to preserve a remnant of my soul. Elder Azure Dragon and the others asked from the sky above the palace. Considering the other party's identity and their position, the Fox Empress and the Crown Prince naturally had to come out to take a look since the Fox Emperor was not around. This was the Fox Palace, the place where the highest authority of the Fox clan was located. It was said to be the safest place in the entire Fox clan. The Fox Empress and the Crown Prince were also quite powerful. There were very few things in the world that could threaten such a combination. However, Azure Dragon and his group carried the Demon Emperor's Imperial token and entered the Fox clan's Imperial Palace safely and smoothly. The Fox Empress and the Crown Prince even showed up on their own accord to meet them. There weren't even a few high-level guards around them. Since they were the special envoys sent by the Demon Emperor, why would they harm them? However, the moment he came out, a soul-exterminating palm struck him. Then, a dragon and phoenix cage enveloped him. At that instant, the Fox Empress didn't even have time to react before she found herself in a perilous situation. Instead, it was the Fox Crown Prince who reacted quickly and sacrificed himself to protect his mother. Otherwise, the Fox Empress would have been the first to die. Then, everything would have been set in stone. Compared to the annihilation of her beloved son, the Fox Empress would rather be the one to die. She, who had suffered such a heavy blow, had shed all pretenses of cordiality and fought against the royal family's law enforcement team. "Give me the child." The Phoenix Emperor took a deep breath and said loudly, "Brother Fox, let's not talk about anything else first. I'll think of a way to save the child's life first. This is the bond between us brothers. As for you taking your revenge in the future, I won't say a word." The Fox Emperor suddenly turned his head to look at the Phoenix Emperor. His originally cold eyes flashed with a hint of surprise and doubt. The current Fox Emperor was just as the Phoenix Emperor had thought. His mind was already at an extreme. There was nothing in this world that could be shaken by words. However, the Phoenix Emperor had targeted the only exception. If the Fox Crown Prince still had a chance to return to life, then there would be a chance to turn things around. In reality, this was the main reason why the Fox Emperor was at the edge of extreme insanity. He had no way to save his son's life. If even he couldn't do it, then it could be said that it was almost irreversible in this world. However, the Phoenix Emperor's shocking words had shaken the Fox Emperor's remaining bit of rationality. That's right, the Fox Emperor only had that sliver of rationality left. The Phoenix Emperor didn't hesitate. He took a deep breath and suddenly opened his arms. Circles after circles of black flames appeared from his body. The balls of black flames covered a radius of 1,000 miles in an instant. Then, they slowly retracted. This is the soul-searching heavenly fire. The Fox Emperor's eyes flashed again. He quickly regained his rationality. The Fox Empress clenched her fists tightly. She looked at the Phoenix Emperor, who was using all his strength to cast a spell, with great anticipation. Will it work? The Fox Empress raised her head and looked at her husband helplessly. This is the soul-searching heavenly fire. Even if the target's soul has completely dissipated, as long as we seal the area where the target's soul dissipated, we will be able to retrieve it to the greatest extent. However, my son's situation isn't just a simple dissipation of his soul. We might still need the Phoenix Emperor's Nirvana flames. Even if it works, the Phoenix Emperor might have to pay the price of dropping a cultivation level. Dropping a cultivation level. The Fox Empress' eyes were filled with shock. She understood what the Fox Emperor meant. The Fox Emperor's expression slowly calmed down. However, the look in his eyes became more and more unpredictable. He understood what the Phoenix Emperor meant by doing this. Even if the Phoenix Emperor said that he could do whatever he wanted after reviving his son and would not stop him. However, if he could do whatever he wanted, why would the Phoenix Emperor do this? The reason behind this matter was actually very simple. How could the Fox Emperor not know about the grudge between him and the Azure Dragon Elder in the past? There was a 90% chance that the Azure Dragon Elder was using his power to avenge a personal grudge. He wanted to make use of this opportunity to wipe out the Fox clan in one fell swoop. The Azure Dragon Elder had attacked right from the start because he knew that it was impossible for him to take revenge on the Fox clan alone. However, he hoped to make use of this opportunity to turn the situation into an irreversible situation. He wanted to force the Fox clan to become enemies with the entire Fox clan. The great lords of the royal law enforcement team would definitely be defeated when facing the entire Fox clan. However, as long as one or two of them returned, the Fox clan would definitely rebel. As the leader of the royal law enforcement team, he had the greatest chance of escaping alive. As long as his plan succeeded, the Fox Emperor, who had lost his beloved son and was in a state of extreme rage, would encounter the hot-tempered demon sovereign. With these two factors added together, it would be hard to avoid the annihilation of the entire Fox clan. If everything went smoothly, he might even be able to reap the benefits of the third party. Both the Fox Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor could see this plan clearly. However, even if they could see it clearly, the Fox Emperor could no longer stop now with such hatred present. The Phoenix Emperor did not mention any reason or consequences when he came here. He did not even mention the reason for the law enforcement team's arrival. The first thing he wanted to do was to save the Fox clan's crown prince. He did not hesitate to lend a helping hand and showed the greatest amount of goodwill. This was where the Phoenix Emperor was brilliant. If there was even the slightest bit of delay, the demon clan's great calamity would be unavoidable. At this point, the other 7 great lords of the law enforcement team all secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Cultivators who could cultivate to the great lord level were not fools. Elder Azure Dragon's actions were very abnormal. After the Dragon Phoenix cage was cast, he immediately pressed down with his palm. This was something that everyone had seen. However, they did not expect that it would result in such a serious outcome. However, during the battle later on, Elder Azure Dragon's every move was a killer move and he pushed himself to his limits. These great lords were not fools. How could they not see it? Before they left, the demon sovereign had never said anything like killing without mercy. Therefore, everyone had held back. They did not truly fight with their lives on the line. After all, their opponents were fellow demon clan members. Otherwise, the Fox clan's casualties today would have been astronomical. It would not have been so few. After knowing that the Fox clan's crown prince had died in the initial attack, how could they not understand? It was clearly Elder Azure Dragon's personal actions that caused the situation to go completely out of control. However, the 7 great lords were filled with confusion. They had never heard of any deep hatred between Elder Azure Dragon and the Fox Emperor. Why was it that Elder Azure Dragon's actions were to push the Fox clan into a dead end? He did not care about the bigger picture at all. Now that the plan that had lasted for hundreds of thousands of years had been destroyed, he actually wanted to use this opportunity to frame the Fox Emperor. This was too reckless, wasn't it? And from the looks of it, he did not even care about his own life. It was obvious that as long as this plan was successful, even if Elder Azure Dragon had to sacrifice his own life, he would not hesitate. What kind of hatred was this? Previously, they had never heard of it. Furthermore, according to Elder Azure Dragon's arrangements, even if he himself had a chance of survival, the other 7 great lords would not be able to survive. Even if the Fox Emperor did not arrive, just the Fox clan's experts led by the Fox Empress would be enough to heavily injure them. After all, the Fox clan's killing intent had already been formed. It would be difficult for them to turn back. The luckiest outcome would be that 1 or 2 great lords could escape with severe injuries. Under everyone's expectant gaze, the soul-searching heavenly fire approached from afar. The Fox Emperor, the Fox Empress, and the Phoenix Emperor's expressions became more and more solemn. They became more and more nervous and cautious. After a long time, a gray substance was surrounded by the soul-searching heavenly fire and returned to the Phoenix Emperor's hand. The Phoenix Emperor melted the Crown Prince's remnant soul into the gray fog and observed it carefully. Then, he exhaled lightly and said, "The soul-exterminating hand is indeed domineering." His divine spirit power was completely dispersed. Luckily, I came early. The Fox Emperor took a deep breath and asked, "Brother Phoenix, how is it?" The Phoenix Emperor said, "It's a little troublesome, but I hope it's still possible." "How confident are you?" the Fox Emperor asked. This time, the Phoenix Emperor did not reply immediately. Instead, after a period of deep consideration, he replied cautiously, "I have 40% confidence, 40%? The Fox Empress' eyes lit up. The success rate that the Phoenix Emperor had mentioned greatly exceeded the Fox Empress' expectations. It was close to a success rate of 50%. As a mother, how could she not be overjoyed? Originally, she did not even have a shred of hope. However, the Fox Emperor noticed the Phoenix Emperor's hesitation and cautiousness. He said, "Brother Phoenix, are there any difficulties?" "There's nothing difficult. It's just that the Demon Emperor and I need to work together at the same time. I will circulate the Nirvana flames, and the Demon Emperor will execute the Dragon Soul secret technique. Then, we will use our Spring of Life to reconstruct Earth's physical body. Then, we will use the Supreme Grade Demon Soul Jade Marrow as the blood, and the essence of the Land Fairy bloodline as the bones." The Fox Emperor's expression darkened at once, and the Fox Empress looked dejected as well. Her previous joy was gone. The Nirvana flames and the Dragon Soul secret technique only required the Dragon Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor to unleash their full power, which would damage their cultivation base. The Spring of Life was not rare either, but the Supreme Grade Demon Soul Jade Marrow and the essence of the Land Fairy bloodline were extremely rare items. Even the Fox Emperor's personal storage did not have such treasures. If we could get our hands on the Bound of Universe's ethereal amethyst, we could increase the success rate to 80%. The Fox Emperor was surprised. Ethereal amethyst? How could this item have such a miraculous effect that greatly increases the success rate? Even if it's an extraordinary item that's exceptionally rare and priceless, it's not like it's impossible to get your hands on it. I have a dozen pieces in my personal storage. The Phoenix Emperor sighed. A dozen pieces isn't enough. To save you, we'll need at least 200 pieces of ethereal amethyst. Every piece of bone must correspond to at least one ethereal amethyst. You have a dozen pieces here, but I don't even have a single piece of ethereal amethyst. I don't think the Dragon Emperor has many either. No matter what, Brother Phoenix, you must help me. I'll try my best to get as many ethereal amethysts as I can, the Fox Emperor said solemnly. Of course. The Phoenix Emperor chuckled bitterly. I'd rather give up my cultivation base than let Brother Fox's legacy end. I must save Earth's life. The Fox Emperor breathed a sigh of relief, and then said darkly, "But today's matter." The Phoenix Emperor smiled. "Brother Fox, you can deal with it yourself. I'm just a bystander today. However, there's another matter that requires Brother Fox's attention. The Azure Dragon may have committed a grave sin, but the other brothers don't understand the whole story. Especially since they probably didn't kill in the previous battle. Otherwise, the Fox clan's losses wouldn't be limited to this." The Fox Emperor said coldly, "I understand that. I'll only seek revenge from the Azure Dragon, but for the 7 of them, I'll still argue with His Majesty the Demon King." The Phoenix Emperor breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. "That's good." Hearing the Fox Emperor mention His Majesty the Demon King, the Phoenix Emperor was relieved. The few demon lords of the enforcement team breathed a sigh of relief as well, and hurriedly stood aside. At this moment, the culprit, Elder Azure Dragon, who was the instigator of this battle, was already in a terrible state. His massive body had shrunk to only a few dozen feet in size, like a small green snake, coiled weakly in the Fox Emperor's hand. He was on the brink of death, but he would still hiss hoarsely from time to time. It was obvious that the excruciating pain was still coursing through his body. On the Fox Emperor's shoulder, there was an additional bright dragon tendon, dripping with glowing golden blood. During this period of time, the Fox Emperor had finally extracted Elder Azure Dragon's dragon tendon. The faces of the 7 enforcers were pale, especially the 3 enforcers of the Dragon Clan. They felt the same fear as the Azure Dragon Clan. However, the Phoenix Emperor acted as if he didn't see it, and he was still talking cheerfully. Now that something like this had happened, even if the Fox Emperor would let this Elder Azure Dragon off, the Phoenix Emperor would definitely not let him off. At this moment of life and death, he actually wanted to incite a war between the 2 clans because of his own selfishness, and almost forced the Fox Emperor, one of the 12 sovereigns, to rebel. Just this one crime alone would cause Elder Azure Dragon to be sentenced to death by the Phoenix Emperor. His crime was unpardonable, and there was no possibility of forgiveness. At this point, there are 2 paths to take. Think about it. Chapter 1307. Poof! The Fox Emperor threw the dying Elder Azure Dragon onto the ground. Elder Azure Dragon struggled to move his body like a little green snake. He raised his head and glared at the Fox Emperor. Azure Dragon, it's been more than 100,000 years. Your evil intentions have not changed at all. You've finally succeeded today. The Fox Emperor looked coldly at Elder Azure Dragon on the ground and said, "You're already at death's door. On account of our old friendship, I'll make an exception and let you say a few last words. I can't just let you die like this. Whatever you want to say, just say it. But don't take any chances. Even if the Demon Emperor himself comes here today, you won't be able to escape death." Elder Azure Dragon broke free from his shackles and used his vital energy to recover. His vital energy gradually returned to his body. The next moment, the light and shadow changed and turned into a weary old man in green. He still glared at the Fox Emperor and said through gritted teeth, "Say a few words." "Say what?" "Nine-tailed white. You treacherous little demon." The Fox Emperor said indifferently, "If you won't say it, I will." The Phoenix Emperor stopped him. "Brother Fox." When the Fox Emperor put down Azure Dragon, he knew that the Fox Emperor was probably going to tell the world about the past. But now, he still stopped him. Once the grudges of important figures were made public, it would probably cause a tsunami in the entire demon race. "It's fine." The Fox Emperor's facial muscles twitched. He said indifferently, "Let him die a quick death. I can kill to my heart's content too. Not only do I want to kill him, I want to kill all his direct descendants of the Azure Dragon tribe. I also want to kill all the bastards and lovers he left behind outside." Azure Dragon laughed maniacally. "Nine-tailed white, if you can do it, then go ahead and kill. Since I'm destined to die today, then I don't care what happens after I die. Even if you destroy the entire Demon Emperor's realm, I'll only smile in the underworld and not frown." The Fox Emperor's indifferent voice instantly spread throughout the sky. It could be heard far and near, as if it was right in front of them. "Today, I have spoken of the past not because I want this old loach to live a little longer, nor is there any *T appreciation. Instead, it is because, today, my Fox clan has suffered such a great calamity for no reason. This emperor needs to give an explanation to the billions of Fox clan citizens. When I was young, I was of the same generation as this Azure Dragon. Back then, as the prince of the Fox clan, I had to travel the Demon Peacock Emperor's realm to gain experience and train myself. He, the Azure Dragon, was also a direct descendant of the Azure Dragon clan. He also traveled the lands, and we met by chance. At that time, the Azure Dragon liked a female demon. That female demon was a compatriot of our Fox clan's Nine-Tailed clan. Moreover, she was the daughter of an elder of the Nine-Tailed clan. Moreover, she was already married, a married woman. The Azure Dragon completely ignored the other party and pestered her day and night. Even though the other party did not respond to him, the Azure Dragon still refused to give up. In the end, the Azure Dragon actually secretly killed the Banshee's husband and ravaged the Banshee to her heart's content. After that, the Banshee committed suicide out of humiliation. When I found out about this, I went to find the Azure Dragon to settle the score. When he said this, some of the elders of the Fox clan suddenly came to a realization. So the inexplicable disappearance of the Fox Emperor's cousin and her cousin-in-law was actually caused by this Azure Dragon before them. At that time, there was a great battle. I broke both of the Azure Dragon's legs and even chopped off half of his head. Just as I was about to take his life, he was saved by the elites of the Azure Dragon clan. From then on, a deep grudge was formed between us. The Emperor of the Azure Dragon clan personally came out to negotiate, and the Azure Dragon concubine of the Demon Peacock Emperor's palace came out to mediate. At that time, I was weak and helpless, so I temporarily stopped. After that, this emperor and my fiancé traveled the pugilistic world, and you actually took a fancy to my fiancé. When we fought again, you joined forces with more than 30 elites of the Azure Dragon clan to besiege this emperor. My wife and I were truly hunted down by you for 30 years. As the saying goes, the dragon clan will definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. This emperor can be considered to be a demon that knows best. At this point, the Fox Emperor turned to look at the Fox Empress. The Fox Empress quietly reached out her small hand and grabbed the Fox Emperor's right hand tightly. Tears welled up in her eyes. You raped and killed the Phoenix clan's fairy Rainbow Phoenix. You were hunted down by me, and I cut off your young root. You were unable to do evil for 9,000 years. After that, you became a saint venerable and regrown your limbs. You reverted back to your old ways and brought disaster to the demons. The Fox Emperor recounted all the incidents one by one. The elites at the side were dazzled by his words, and they stared blankly at him. Could it be that these two fellows were born to be enemies? They had been at each other's throats since they were young, and it was a love-hate relationship. From what the Fox Emperor had said, the Azure Dragon had been beaten half to death by the Fox Emperor more than 100 times. He had even lost his thing, but he still did not change his lecherous nature. On the other hand, the Fox Emperor had been hunted down by the Azure Dragon clan no less than 20 times, and he had narrowly escaped death countless times. This was definitely a natural enemy. Though your 119 sons, and your 40 and 50 concubines, have all died by my hand, on my side. The Fox Emperor spoke clearly, and he recounted the evil deeds of the Azure Dragon. Everyone, including the billions of foxes below, had their mouths wide open. Although it was common knowledge that dragons were lustful by nature, this Azure Dragon was a little too lustful. It could be said that he was so hungry that he could not be choosy, and all the demons could do it. So many things had happened, but not a single one of them had nothing to do with the female demons. And it was all related to the various races, with no exceptions. If he had resorted to such methods to win the hearts of beauties, it wouldn't be a big deal. But look at what Elder Qing Long of the Yao family had done. He was despicable and despicable, using whatever methods he could think of. Rape, drugging, kidnapping, threatening, coercing. He had resorted to every conceivable means possible. Elder Azure Dragon coughed and laughed. Are you done? Is there any falsehood in what I have said? The Fox Emperor's gaze was cold. No. The Azure Dragon raised his head and said, I am a dragon, and that is my nature. So what if I have done it? You, the nine-tailed white fox, killed my entire family back then, and that is the source of my hatred today. Have you forgotten? I'm not afraid to tell you that the woman that I like the most in my life is your wife. What right do you have to win her heart? She even gave birth to a son for you. What right do you have to have what I can't have? Elder Azure Dragon laughed. Nine-tailed white fox, with the Phoenix Emperor's intervention this time, you should count yourself lucky that I didn't kill you. He raised his head and laughed. But do you think that the Phoenix Emperor can save your son from Soul Slayer? Dream on. Your son is destined to die. And he will die a horrible death, with his body and soul destroyed. I will make sure that you two coquettish foxes will never be able to let go of this for the rest of your lives. The Fox Emperor panted, his gaze cold and sharp. He said lightly, I just want to ask you one thing. All these years, when I became the Fox Emperor, I broke all your bones because of your troublemaking. There has been no movement for too many years. Why did you suddenly make a move this time? Azure Dragon scoffed, his eyes filled with hatred. You want to know? Speak. I want to say, there was a power outage last night. Would you believe me? Facepalm. GT. Chapter 1308. If you don't say it, I won't have the chance to say it. Azure Dragon laughed hoarsely. Because, ever since you became the Fox Emperor, I no longer have the chance, or rather, the chance is getting slimmer and slimmer. You are getting more and more powerful, but the highest I can climb is only to become a demon elder. I no longer have the chance to deal with you. Azure Dragon roared, this is my last chance. If I don't kill you this time, I won't have the chance even if I live for another 100,000 years. Nine-tailed White, are you satisfied with the gift I gave you this time? Ha 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 ha. No chance. It's because there's no chance, the Fox Emperor murmured. Suddenly, he let out a long roar, and his figure turned into an afterimage as he flew down. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, Elder Azure Dragon's howl shook the heavens and earth. Today, I will settle all the scores that have been accumulated for more than 100,000 years. Let's write them off. The Fox Emperor pulled out 4 of Azure Dragon's dragon tendons. Then, his palm shone with golden light again, and he slammed it down. Azure Dragon. Don't worry, it won't be long before your entire family, young and old, will accompany you to the underworld and be doomed eternally. With a boom, the huge Azure Dragon's body turned into ashes. At this moment, a Azure Dragon's shadow suddenly appeared in mid-air and was about to escape. But the Fox Emperor was already waiting in front of him. He grabbed the shadow in his hand and squeezed hard, and it exploded with a bang. In the sky, a colorful mist rose. The spiritual chi in the entire area where the Fox clan was suddenly more than doubled. This was the overflowing spiritual chi from the fallen great sage to the mainland. From the beginning to the end, whether it was the other 7 great sages of the law enforcement team or the Phoenix Emperor, they did not do anything and did not make a sound. As the Fox Emperor waved his hand, countless golden lights suddenly filled the sky. The Fox Emperor Palace, which had already collapsed on the ground, suddenly rose from the ground and reassembled itself in the sky. When it landed again, the glorious Fox Emperor Palace had already been restored to its original appearance. Heal your wounds first. The Fox Emperor instructed. Something big must have happened. Otherwise, this would not have happened. Prepare for battle. Brother Phoenix, please. Everyone, please. The Fox Emperor took a deep breath. Now, tell me, what has happened? What has caused the Imperial Law Enforcement Squad and Brother Foam to come here personally? Indeed, up until now, the Fox clan still did not know what had happened today. The Phoenix Emperor sighed. Brother Fox, the trouble you've caused this time is really not small. The Fox Emperor was taken aback. I caused this? Not small? The Phoenix Monarch rolled her eyes. A single token of yours has already turned the entire Demon Peacock realm upside down. Brother Fox, the most powerful token in the history of the Demon Emperor calendar belongs to none other than the Fox Emperor token. This is something that brother admires greatly. The Fox Emperor raised his hand and said, Hold it right there, Brother Phoenix. You have to explain this matter clearly. I don't understand. Are you jealous or praising me? Praise. The Phoenix Emperor was speechless. Wait until I'm done. If you still think it's a compliment, then I'll have to hand it to you. I was just about to listen. The Fox Emperor snorted coldly. I, the Fox Emperor, have always been upright and upright. I have never done anything shameful in my life. Even if you slander me, it will not be able to do anything to me. As she spoke, she crossed her legs and looked at the Phoenix Emperor from the corner of her eyes. She was slightly displeased. The Azure Dragon came to frame me, so he is my enemy. But you, the Phoenix Emperor, actually want to frame me? In your dreams. What? What? The Crown Prince of the Fox clan destroyed many underground prisons? Damaged the soul-devouring tree? The spirit-devouring formation will not be able to recover for at least 1,000 years? That is the truth. The Fox Emperor's eyes widened. The Fox Empress also looked at the Phoenix Emperor with a dumbfounded expression. Are you sure you're not joking? I clearly heard and understood every word, but why didn't I understand this so-called truth? Furthermore, the Crane Emperor, the Eagle Emperor, and the Rock Emperor, were all tricked? The other party has many rare superior grade treasures, and they are the key spirit herbs that are extinct or already lost. So many great sage emperors have been tricked by a saint. This. The Fox Emperor and his wife were still dumbfounded. I understand what you're saying, but, how can there be such an existence? He actually has the means to get the key spirit herbs that are so rare that they are almost lost, or even extinct, and several races have them? Is this really not a joke? Our Fox clan actually has such a remarkable person. The Eagle Emperor, the Rock Emperor, are they all from the Pig clan? Most importantly, that Fox demon has my Fox Emperor's token on her. That's why she pointed the finger at me. The Dragon Emperor's suspicions are not baseless. SSS. The Fox Emperor's eyes almost popped out. He looked at the Phoenix Emperor as if he wanted to eat him up. Brother Phoenix, this matter, it's fine if others have doubts, but today, he looked at his son's body, which was still in the Phoenix Emperor's arms and was being nourished by the Nirvana demonic aura. His lips were trembling. How is this possible? My son has already been beaten to death. How can there be a second crown prince? The Phoenix Emperor smiled. Naturally, I don't believe it. Before I came, including when I met the Dragon Emperor, I stood on your side. It's still the same even now. But, please think carefully, Brother Fox. Your token. Have you given it to anyone before? In this incident, anything can have a reason or an accident that exceeds common sense. Only the Fox Emperor's imprint cannot be faked. The Fox Emperor shook his head firmly. How can I give my token to an unrelated Fox clan? That's impossible. That's impossible. The Phoenix Emperor smiled. I didn't say you gave it to a fox demon. In fact, I suspect that the main character of this incident is a human. Are you sure you didn't give your token to anyone? A human? Of course it's even more impossible. The Fox Emperor hadn't finished his sentence when he suddenly froze as if he had been electrocuted. A figure flashed past his mind like a fleeting shadow. The Fox Emperor's mouth fell open. His expression was blank, and he was stunned on the spot. Seeing him like this, the Phoenix Emperor came to a realization. His expression tensed up, and he asked urgently, You really gave it to someone? The Fox Emperor's mouth fell open. He turned his head slowly and looked at the Phoenix Emperor. The expression on his face was extremely interesting. For a moment, his entire mind was a mess. Even his eyes were a little dazzled. I only drank a few jars of wine, and I caused such a huge incident. He thought of the confident words he had said back then. Who in the entire Demon Peacock Emperor's realm would dare to not give face to the Fox Emperor's token? The Fox Emperor couldn't help but want to cry. You. What kind of scammer are you? Chapter 1309. Yin Yang's journey had been an exciting one. He had initially planned to return from the Fox Emperor's side. This was the route he had initially planned. If the demon race had yet to erupt after this series of events and his last place of disappearance had been the Fox clan, then the suspicion of the Fox clan would be increased by at least 10%. If you want to cheat someone, you have to cheat them until they die. Since you've already made use of both sides, why not just make use of them all? However, he did not expect to be discovered by the demon race while he was still wreaking havoc. In this way, as long as he found the Fox Emperor, the truth would definitely be exposed, and his identity would no longer be able to be concealed. If he were to ask the Fox Emperor for help now, he would probably be handing over his own head to the Fox Emperor. The Fox Emperor was definitely going to hate him to the core. It would be a good thing if he didn't eat him alive. But where was he going to go back from on this return journey? Yin Yang had done his homework beforehand. There were about 7 places where the demon race and the human race would battle, and each place was heavily guarded by the human race, preventing the demon race's army from entering. On the other hand, the demon clan's army was also suppressing the area, ready to launch an attack at any time. In other words, he had 7 choices. And the only thing they had to pay attention to was the Saint Monarch level powerhouses guarding these 7 paths. According to the information Yin Yang had gathered, each of these 7 locations had more than one Saint Lord level expert. With Yin Yang's cultivation base, it would not be a problem if he could conceal himself to ensure his safety. However, the situation now was vastly different from when he had first arrived. The demonic emperor had sent out many special demons known for their mental strength, such as the golden fish king that had devoured Yun Yang's water form before. It was unrealistic for him to conceal himself completely, but it was even more difficult to charge through. It was no different from committing suicide. Even with Yun Yang's intelligence, he had no clue what to do next. However, his composure after experiencing countless things didn't allow him to panic at all. It doesn't matter even if I can't go back for now. How vast was the monster realm? Even if there was a powerful being like the Golden Fish King, it would need to be close to me in order to threaten me. With my ever-changing ability, as long as I didn't court death, I wouldn't be able to threaten me. He might be able to stir up a storm in the demon race. However, we must be cautious. Faced with the situation where hundreds of billions of demonic beasts were searching for him, Yun Yang only took a breath to decide on his next step. The most dangerous place is also the safest place. Since I can't get away anyway, why don't I take this opportunity to take a stroll around Demon Imperial City? Maybe going to Phoenix City for a walk is also a good choice. I'll give you another 10,000 yuan. I can go to the Demon Soul Sea. Yun Yang had turned into an extremely ordinary-looking wolf demon and strolled leisurely on the road. His current cultivation level was only that of a Saint King. It was just that the way it behaved like a curious baby that would go wherever there was excitement made many demons speechless. This wolf demon, was it not afraid of death, or was it afraid of not dying? In order to catch the spy, blood and flesh were flying everywhere, and you still came over with a face full of amazement. Aren't you just fanning the flames? His cultivation was so low, yet he was so daring. There was no one else like him who could court death like this. They were amazed and amazed. A certain wolf had traversed 17,000 miles leisurely, yet he did not meet anyone who came up to check him. He really did not know if it was a blessing or a misfortune. Many demon couples would fight to the death even if they could not match the secret code. This lone wolf demon did not ask any questions throughout the whole process. It was obvious how terrifying a coincidence could be. However, was this really a coincidence? You went up to ask questions when you saw a demon, trying all sorts of ways to get close to them. Then, you would even come up with all sorts of plans to help after you became familiar with them. It's very difficult to find the spy, said the wolf demon. But it's not completely impossible. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is also the safest place. Since that fox demon has the ability to change, who knows what he's going to look like? What if he suddenly attacks us all? It'll be terrible. Just look at what he's done previously, killing so many demons. How can we withstand it with our weak bodies? I have an idea. A secret code. Aya, the secret code you designed is not good. All 12 of you know it. It'll be too easy for the enemy to fish in troubled waters. Think about it, don't you think what I said makes sense? It does make sense. I suggest that between every 2 demons, there must be a special code that only belongs to the 2 demons, and this code must not be known by a third party. You see, there are 12 of us, so each of us needs 11 sets of code. Is this right? As long as it matches, it's definitely our own demon. If it doesn't match, won't it be clear? Under the wolf demon's plan, the group of Saint King demonic beasts began to communicate with each other using secret codes. In the first few days, it was very peaceful, and because of the secret codes, all the demons felt very at ease and at ease. As a result, along the way, they spread this idea everywhere, afraid that others would not know. This was also the wolf demon's idea. Aya, you can't just think about yourselves. Think about it. If we use this method to find the fox demon, we'll have made a great contribution. No matter who finds it, we'll have a share in the final reward. Even if we don't get a share of the credit, we'll still be solving a big problem for the demon race. Don't take it lightly. Think about it, with our meager strength, even if we happen to find the fox demon, can we kill it? We definitely can't, right? Since we can't, we'll have to find another way and use a strategy to gain our credit. Don't you think so? Isn't this logical? When the demons heard this, they felt that this was too *king logical. With the strength of that fox demon that killed so many Saint Venerables, the few of them definitely couldn't do it. But with this method, once discovered, the demons would attack together, and it would definitely be a different matter. Thus, along the way, the eyes of all the demons they met lit up. This was a good idea. Identifying enemies, a wonderful way to save one's life. This was a really good idea. Especially those demons that had a large number of demons, who were already having a headache over the purity of their troops. When they heard this method, they were even more overjoyed and elated. Along the way, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000,000. More and more demons used this method. As a result, in the end, every time they went to a city, the wolf demon would set up a high platform and spread this method to all the demons in the city, gaining countless praises. Although the wolf demon's strength was shallow, many high-level demons respectfully called it, intelligent star wolf. And. Chapter 13:10. All the demons were in awe of this resourceful celestial wolf who came up with strategies. It was just that this fellow did not forget to mention that if the method worked and the target was captured, they should remember to give him a share of the credit. It felt a little undignified, but on second thought, since he had given such a good method to everyone, it was reasonable for him to want some benefits. As the celestial wolf demon continued to preach and teach, everything was orderly for a period of time. It was only half a month, then, a problem arose. It was normal for 3 to 5 demons to have code words between each other. There would not be any loopholes, but what about dozens of demons? 20 or so? 40 or 50? 1 or 200? In fact, what if there were thousands of demons? Any demon they met would have a special code word that belonged only to them. How much of a test of memory was this? As a result, very soon, some of the demons' brains were in knots. They either remembered it wrongly or answered it wrongly. Many answers were in their heads, and after a long time, they were like glue. Even those who were more meticulous and recorded the code words of all the demons and themselves after they returned could not take it anymore. There were also many who asked preemptively when they met demons they knew, but they asked the wrong question the moment they opened their mouths. This should be another demon's code word. What did the wrong answer mean? F***CK. Spy. Fox demon. Target. It was merit points. The chance to ascend to heaven in a single bound had come. Hence, the fight broke out. It was a battle of life and death. As time went on, such battles increased. They could be seen almost everywhere. It was a common occurrence after a meal. Therefore, the celestial wolf demon preached for tens of thousands of miles, amassing the way of the code word. Behind him, however, was a path of bloodshed. This bloodshed was still spreading outwards. The method was indeed effective. Any demon would think that it was effective, and it was indeed effective. There was only one prerequisite: one had to have a corresponding memory. Therefore, once something went wrong, there was no doubt that it was a spy. When a month had passed, the wolf demon that Yun Yang had transformed into was less than 10,000 miles away from Demon Imperial City. And his greatest achievement along the way was, they moved forward and backward, left and right, going back and forth, traveling no less than 50,000 li. Let's start from the place where he started preaching. By the time he reached the 500-kilometer mark, several demons had already died under his method. By the time he reached 3,000 li, the number of dead demons had already reached several hundred. By the time he reached 10,000 li, the number had surged to more than 10,000. By the time he reached his current position, there were already at least 1,000,000 demons behind him. They had died tragically because of his secret signal. He had killed 1,000,000 enemies without even drawing his saber. And this number continued to grow crazily with each passing day. There was a mountain with 8,000 to 9,000 demons, but now there were less than 1,000 left. Half a month after he left, hundreds of thousands of demons had died in the city where millions of demons lived. More than half of the population had been reduced. The tyrannical part of this method was, even when the demons were dead, the secret signal was still alive in the minds of the living demons. It was easy to remember it, but it was difficult to forget it. And when there were so many secret codes, and the targets were either dead or alive, it would be even more difficult to remember who belonged to who. Yun-Yang traveled in a carefree manner. Hundreds of thousands of miles behind him were peaceful, but hundreds of thousands of miles away, it was bound to be a sea of blood. As he continued to move forward, the memory of the originally peaceful place gradually became chaotic, and the same thing happened in other places. Once it had reached this stage, the wolf demon would naturally disappear, but the tiger demon, eagle demon, and bear demon could still come one after another. Wherever Yun-Yang had stepped foot in the demon realm, it was inevitable that hostility would rise, blood would flow, and bones would pile up like mountains. Countless karmic chi was surging into Yun-Yang's space like a tsunami every day. I don't kill them, but they die because of me. Besides, killing with a saber was killing, and killing with a mouth was also killing. The sharpness of Yun-Yang's mouth had never lost to the divine edge. This was a publicly acknowledged fact in the Tianxian continent. Not long after, this fact would be acknowledged in the bound of universe, or at least in the realm of demonic beasts. When Yun-Yang was about 20,000 miles away from the demon imperial city, the situation had developed to the point where teams of experts could be seen running out at any time. The path that Yun-Yang had taken to come here was the most critical area, attracting the attention of the higher-ups. There had been no news of any changes happening before this. Why did they suddenly start killing each other, and millions of them at once? What had happened? There had to be something. Was there some demonic realm cultivation method, mystical treasure, spiritual medicine, spiritual plant, or spiritual root that was hidden in the world? There was a saying in the human world that where there were people, there would be martial arts. This saying was correct, but the scope was a little thin. At least, it should be changed to where there were people or demons, there would be martial arts. The demonic race would also trigger martial arts calamities due to some special opportunities. It was also because the demonic race worshipped the strong more. Once there was a unique cultivation method or legacy of the demonic realm strong, it was not rare to cause a large number of demonic race casualties. What was rare was that there were no signs of this upheaval at all. Usually, the demonic realm's higher-ups, the so-called officials, would know about it in advance and take precautions so that they could control the situation later. This time, however, everything had happened so suddenly and inexplicably. Furthermore, the demonic race experts who were in charge of handling these matters did not connect these casualties to the fox demon at all. Although the demon fox's strength was tyrannical and it had taken countless demon lives, it also had a miraculous transformation technique that could cause a large number of casualties, but, up until now, the demons that had died at the demon fox's hands were at least saint rulers, or even saint kings and saint venerables. In fact, the demon fox did not even deign to kill saint ruler level demons. After all, its true strength was clear for all to see. Although the upheaval this time involved a large number of territories and demonic heads, high-level demons and above were rarely involved. The fox demon was only a single demon, so it was difficult to create such a huge scene no matter what. Naturally, no one connected it to the fox demon. By the time these experts rushed over, the millions of demonic heads that had been reported from the front line had already grown to a scale of tens of millions, and they were still killing each other with bloodshot eyes. Give me your life, fox demon. The saint lords in the air felt as if their heads were about to explode. This was no less than 50 to 60,000 miles. Moreover, why were they shouting like this everywhere? What the hell, were there so many fox demons? The reason for this scene was very simple, and it was even more violent. Too many demons had killed their fellow demonic beasts because of their own misjudgment. However, their pride could not be overcome, and they could not sheath their blades. All of their eyes were bloodshot. Kill the fox demon and avenge my brothers. As a result, more and more demonic beasts died in the hands of their brothers, their companions, until they were killed and revealed their true forms. Only then would they confirm that they had killed the wrong people. Then, a discussion arose. The fox demon is everywhere, everywhere. The fox demon's transformation ability was beyond imagination, and it had the ability to bewitch demons. Then, another wave of discussion arose. The Demon King's orders could not be disobeyed. The fox demon must die. The fox demon must die. Then, the most extreme view began to appear. It was better to kill 10,000 innocents than to let one fox demon go. As this discussion became more and more intense, 1/3 of the entire Demon Emperor's realm was gradually affected. When the Demon King heard the news, he became even more furious, and gave another strict order. We must capture the fox demon at all costs. If the Phoenix Emperor did not go to the Fox Emperor's side, with his intelligence, he would definitely stop it. As for the other demons, even if they felt that something was wrong, they did not dare to face the enraged Demon King. In reality, the demon race would not only have the Phoenix Emperor as a wise person. Many demons had already seen through the trap. However, no matter if it was a human or a demon, as long as they were intelligent, they would habitually want to make use of the current situation to benefit themselves. Many demons with hearts had even used the current evil wind to set up a killing trap, targeting their mortal enemies. This had indirectly caused the evil wind to grow stronger day by day, and it was difficult to stop. This situation continued until the Fox Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor hurried to the Demon Emperor's palace. Along the way, the Phoenix Emperor and the Fox Emperor discussed the current situation. They did not travel very quickly, and only when they reached the inner lands of the Demon Peacock Emperor's realm did they realize that the demonic wind had already reached a considerable scale. They walked for another 10,000 miles, and what they saw along the way was even more tragic. The Phoenix Emperor reacted quickly, and came to a conclusion: this was bad. There was a huge hidden danger in the Demon Emperor's order. Once it was used by the demons, it would lead to a great disaster, and the consequences would be dire. Return immediately. 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 The Phoenix Emperor was burning with anxiety, and did not hesitate to expend a large amount of inner yuan to once again use a mysterious technique. He directly tore apart the space, and instantly returned to the Demon Emperor's palace, and just happened to bump into the enraged Demon Emperor. It's just a demon fox, yet it managed to turn the world upside down. Investigate. Investigate thoroughly. Even if we have to scrape the ground and turn the entire Demon Emperor's realm upside down, we must find the fox demon, tear her into pieces, and burn her to ashes. A bunch of useless things. You can't even catch a small fox demon. What are you all doing? Why are you still not going out to investigate? Why are you standing here like a block of wood? Haven't you all heard enough of my scolding? Investigate. 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 The figure flashed. The Phoenix Emperor and the Fox Emperor landed in the main hall, and the Phoenix Emperor's anxious voice sounded. Your Majesty, please calm down. Then, he said hurriedly, leave this matter to me. The Phoenix Emperor's voice was mixed with the calmness of an iceberg, and it smashed down. It caused all the higher-ups of the demon race in the main hall to calm down for a moment. The Demon Emperor, who was in a state of rage, actually calmed down because of this. This was the secret of the Phoenix race, heavenly voice of the divine Phoenix. It was best at shocking the soul and stirring the heart. The Demon Emperor turned his head to look, and saw the Fox Emperor in a fluttering green robe. His emotions that had just calmed down suddenly exploded again, and he roared angrily. Nine-tailed white. What the hell are you doing? The Fox Emperor said coldly, when did I ever do anything? The one who is doing anything is your Majesty. I only have one question to ask. What is your Majesty Demon Emperor's intention? You have sent 10 great sages at one go, and with such great fanfare to denounce us. Do you want to directly exterminate the fox race? The Demon Emperor was enraged. Nonsense, how could there be such a thing? The Fox Emperor said angrily, how could there be such a thing? The truth was right in front of him. Even if the Demon Emperor's words were law, could he change the truth? The truth is, Azure Dragon led the team, and after he went there, he directly killed my son with one palm strike, and then smashed the entire fox palace into pieces, causing countless deaths and injuries. He even wanted to capture all the demons of the royal race. He said that the fox race was rebelling, and that the entire fox race should be exterminated. Your Majesty, Demon Emperor, could it be that this was not an order from you? The Demon Emperor was enraged. I did not give such an order. The Fox Emperor waved his hand and laughed coldly. Ha 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 ha, the few of you, come out. I want to ask your Majesty, Demon Emperor, what exactly happened. Could it be that the few of you colluded with Azure Dragon and issued a false imperial decree to exterminate the fox race? The expressions of the 9 great sages of the royal family law enforcement team were all extremely ugly, and they all stood in the main hall. The Demon Emperor roared. Tell me, did I say that I wanted to exterminate the fox race? The mouths of the 9 great sages twitched. Indeed, you did not directly say that you wanted to exterminate the fox race, but you said that you were going to deal with them easily. With this title, so what if you exterminated the fox race? Especially, you directly let Azure Dragon lead the team? Who didn't think that there was a deeper meaning behind it? Or was this the scheming of a monarch? Who dared to question it? But at this moment, all the demons lowered their heads and didn't speak. Everyone knew that if they argued at this moment, they would be wrong even if they were right, and even more wrong if they were wrong. The more they spoke, the more wrong they would be. Not speaking was the right thing to do, and it was the only way to preserve their lives. At the side, the Phoenix Emperor sighed and said in a deep voice, Indeed, we have to deal with this matter first. Your Majesty, did you say that you wanted to exterminate the fox race? I'm sure you didn't, but what did you instruct at that time? You should know what you are doing, right? His tone became heavier as he said, Azure Dragon and Nine-Tailed White have been enemies for hundreds of thousands of years, as well as enemies of love. I wonder if you have considered this point? The Demon Emperor was flabbergasted. After a while, he flew into a rage. How many years has it been? May I ask your Majesty, what did you say at that time? Did you instruct that Azure Dragon to deal with my fox race? The Demon Emperor stammered, his face flushed red. He argued irrationally. I did say that I would let him deal with me according to the situation, but, the Fox Emperor laughed coldly. You told my enemy to deal with me according to the situation. What's the difference between that and telling him to kill me? The Demon Emperor opened his mouth and wanted to speak, but he couldn't speak for a long while. After a long while, he said hatefully, If you didn't do this, why would I have to? At this point, he sighed. Then he said with some irritation, What else can I say? Hurry up and deal with this matter first. Where's Azure Dragon? I told him to look for you, but he did such a thing. I won't forgive him. The Fox Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. They knew that the Demon Emperor had said this to express his intention of admitting defeat and apologizing. And the Fox Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor's goal would be achieved. Chapter 13:11. What the two sovereigns were most worried about was that the demon sovereign would punish the fox sovereign in a fit of rage. If that happened, the situation might really get out of hand. After all, the demon sovereign was the highest sovereign of the demon race. His words were the law, and he could be reasonable even if he was unreasonable. Hence, the fox sovereign took the initiative and suppressed the demon sovereign on the basis of reason. He first made the hot-tempered sovereign feel that he was in the wrong, and then everything would be fine. From the looks of it, things were developing smoothly. Of course, the Phoenix sovereign had also contributed a lot. In the entire demon race, apart from the Phoenix sovereign, even the Dragon Queen might not be able to persuade her demon sovereign husband. It doesn't matter whether you spare Azure Dragon or not. Azure Dragon killed my son, and I have already killed him on the spot. The Fox Sovereign's face darkened, and he said sorrowfully, What your Majesty needs to consider now is that the fox race is in a frenzy because of this matter. I can no longer suppress it, the demon sovereign stared. What did you say? Azure Dragon is dead? Then, he stared again. The fox race is in chaos? Nine-tailed white, you have been the fox sovereign for so many years. As the leader of the fox race, you can't suppress the emotions of your people? What are you doing? The fox sovereign said coldly, Your Majesty, you must be joking. The reason why the fox race is so furious is because of my son's unjust death. What right do I have to suppress it? On the other hand, if I suppress this emotion directly, wouldn't I be going against the law? How can I lead the fox race? The fox sovereign snorted, and said, When the dragon prince died, Your Majesty suppressed it? The demon sovereign was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but feel his face turn purple. How dare the fox expose my shortcomings? In just 2 sentences, the fox sovereign had already glossed over the azure dragon's death, and even suppressed the demon sovereign on the basis of righteousness. The phoenix sovereign interrupted, and said, Your Majesty, water has its source, trees have their roots, and everything has its cause. That azure dragon used the soul-exterminating palm on the fox prince. And he didn't even greet him. He suddenly attacked when he was caught off guard. The fox prince's soul was instantly destroyed. Even though the fox queen tried her best to save him, she could only keep a remnant of his soul. If the fox race doesn't have any emotions, and doesn't do anything, that would be the fox sovereign's failure. This matter of his is indeed difficult. Demon sovereign was enraged, that bastard Qing Long. At such a critical juncture, you actually want to use your position to avenge a personal grudge. You really deserve to die. The Phoenix Monarch said, Sigh, the life and death of the Azure Dragon are already inconsequential. Your Majesty, the Fox Monarch only has this one successor. Thankfully, I arrived in time and managed to protect the remnant of that child's soul. However, in terms of reviving the soul and prolonging its life, I'm unable to do it myself. I need Your Majesty to join forces with me to have any hope of reviving it. The Fox Emperor cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, please take pity on my son's fate. The Demon Sovereign looked at the Phoenix Sovereign and said in a low voice, Phoenix Sovereign, I understand what you mean. This is something that should be done. However, even if you and I don't hesitate to expend a lot of our vitality and give it our all, we will at most have less than 40% success rate. That's fine, but if both of us drop our cultivation levels, it will be difficult for us to recover our peak battle prowess in 100 years. There will be a lot of trouble in the future. Are you sure you want to do this? The Phoenix Monarch said solemnly, I think that it can be done, that it should be done, that it must be done. The Demon Sovereign was silent for a moment before he finally nodded. Since you have already decided, I will agree to it. However, Fox Emperor, you must also promise me one thing. Please speak, Your Majesty. The Demon Sovereign sighed. Azure Dragon is the main culprit of this matter. If he dies, then so be it. However, as the saying goes, if he dies, then he dies. As for Azure Dragon's family and clansmen, just raise your hand. The Fox Emperor was silent for a moment before he said, Since Your Majesty has spoken, as long as they don't take the initiative to provoke me, I will consider it. However, if they take the initiative to find trouble with me, I will still retaliate at the first instant. My son was killed, the Empress was bullied, and the palace was destroyed. If anyone tries to bully me and still wants me to tolerate it, I would rather not be the Fox Emperor than to do so. The Demon Sovereign sighed deeply. That's good, that's good. This matter had come to an end. The next moment, the Phoenix Monarch immediately issued an order. Pass down the Demon Sovereign's order. The Fox Demon who destroyed the underground prison has been captured and brought to justice. This matter ends here. It has come to an end. He then turned to the Fox Emperor. Brother Fox, it won't be a problem for the Fox clan to send out a Saint Venerable to cooperate with us and put on an act, right? The Fox Emperor had a complicated expression. No problem. The Demon Sovereign at the side was full of confusion. After a moment, he said angrily, Phoenix Monarch. What's wrong with you? When did you capture that fox demon? Why didn't I know about it? Don't you think you can do whatever you want just because I love you? The Phoenix Monarch sighed. We haven't captured that fox demon yet, but, if we continue to carry out your orders, the entire demon clan might end up killing each other. The demon sovereign was stunned. Although he was not as smart as the Phoenix Monarch and had a bad temper, he could easily do some reckless things when his temper flared up. However, since he could become the king of the demon clan, he was not a fool. He naturally had the heart of an emperor. After the Phoenix Monarch said this, he immediately understood. There should be a huge loophole in his original orders, and it had already been used by a heart demon. Send it out immediately. The Phoenix Monarch directly took the demon sovereign's seal, stamped it, and threw it out. Then, a second demon sovereign's order was passed down. Calculate all the casualties and deaths. The demon sovereign's expression instantly changed. He hurriedly stopped him. What's the point of calculating the casualties? There's no need for that, the Phoenix Monarch slowly said. Calculating the casualties is for your own sake. Demon Sovereign, in order to let you know, what a stupid thing you've done. Only the most detailed information is the best proof. The Phoenix Monarch indifferently glanced at the Demon Sovereign. The Demon Sovereign's expression instantly darkened. I knew you were not a good person. Otherwise, why would I stop you? However, the situation was obvious now. It was impossible to stop him. Because the Demon Sovereign's order had already been stamped and passed down. What do we do next? The Demon Sovereign's expression darkened. What do we do? You're the Demon Sovereign, okay. The Phoenix Monarch stretched lazily and was a little weak. You always create a mess for me to clean up. Tell me, after so many years, how many times have you done it? I'd rather you not love me, so that I can still be free. The Demon Sovereign opened his mouth and was unable to say anything. After a long while, he struggled to say, back then, you said you didn't want to do it. Now it's all my fault. The Phoenix Monarch was so angry that his stomach hurt. I'm not a member of the Demon Sovereign clan. How can I do it? Just this point alone was enough to cause the entire demon clan to riot. Could every demon clan become a demon sovereign regardless of their clan? If this theory was spread, then the demon emperor's realm would really be finished. Moreover, who allowed you to become the #1 expert in the demon clan grand tournament back then? Was it because I didn't want to do it? Even if I risked my life, I still couldn't beat you, okay? You're the #1 expert in the world. Of course you have to be the demon sovereign. The demon clan's principle was that the strong were revered. This was the principle. Also, don't be so ambiguous every time you speak. What do you mean by loving me? What the F***ck is that? Forget it. The Phoenix Monarch sat down sullenly and scolded through gritted teeth. I owed you in my past life. In this life, the entire demon clan will have to clean up your mess for you. Although the demon sovereign's intelligence was only above average, he had always been very sensitive to insults. His expression suddenly changed at the Phoenix Monarch's words, and he said angrily, whose father are you? Phoenix Monarch, I realize that you're getting cocky now. Do you still know who's at the top and who's at the bottom? As he spoke, he began to roll up his sleeves. The Phoenix Monarch was so angry that he was speechless. His face was ashen. Didn't I just blurt it out? The Fox Monarch was half trying to smooth things over and half changing the topic. Your Majesty, may I ask how many ethereal amethysts you have? The demon sovereign's attention was immediately diverted. He scratched his head and said, that stuff is very rare. I have about 30 pieces here. Why? The Fox Monarch looked hopeless. 30 pieces, that's not enough, the demon sovereign. I've already said that stuff is rare. I have more than 30 pieces here, and that's definitely the most I have in the demon clan. I didn't say that I'll give it to you. What do you mean by not enough? The Phoenix Monarch had already pulled him down from the throne, but he did not notice at all. He simply walked down from the throne and walked up to the fox monarch, asking a series of questions. What do you want the ethereal amethysts for? This stuff is rare even among the humans, and even rarer among the demon clan. On the other side, the Phoenix monarch was already sitting on the throne and issuing orders. Sovereigns of the various clans, gather for a meeting. Also, the elites of the clans that specialize in soul energy and mental energy are not to be left behind. I want everyone to gather at the demon palace within 2 hours. His subordinates left to carry out the orders. No one felt that there was anything wrong with the Phoenix monarch sitting on the demon sovereign's throne and issuing orders. They were probably used to it. The demon sovereign, on the other hand, did not feel anything was amiss. He was still frowning and looking worried. This ethereal amethysts, where do I get them? If it were something else, or something that the demon clan can get their hands on, I can gather them for you no matter how many you have, but this ethereal amethysts, there's not much of them in the entire bound of universe. On the other side, the Phoenix monarch's orders were passed down one after another. Of course, they were all in the name of the demon sovereign. The demon sovereign patted the fox monarch's shoulder and sighed. I understand how you feel, sigh. He could not help but recall the time when his son was killed by the 9 lives cat. Nostalgia filled the demon sovereign's eyes. Don't worry, the Phoenix monarch and I will do our best. Even if our combat power is reduced, we won't regret it, the fox monarch nodded repeatedly. He looked at the demon sovereign with a strange gaze and then at the Phoenix monarch who was sitting on the throne boldly. He was suddenly convinced. This fellow was not worried about being usurped at all. Perhaps he did not even have such a thought in his heart. Should it be said that being simple-minded was also a form of happiness? Yun Yang, who was still on his way, acutely noticed that the turmoil in the demon clan seemed to have calmed down all of a sudden. This was obviously not right. People's hearts were moved by wealth. With such a terrible situation, even if a large number of officials were to intervene, it would still be difficult to pacify the situation. Yin Yang probed around, seemingly unintentionally, and immediately understood that the demon emperor's court had sent out the news that the demon fox had been captured. Once the news was out, the enthusiasm of the entire demon emperor's realm to capture the demon fox plummeted. Once the source of the unrest was eliminated, the chaos was immediately pacified. How did she get captured, useless demon fox? How could she be captured so easily? Ah! My chance to ascend to the heavens in a single bound. How despicable! Who was it that snatched away my opportunity? Your father will not live under the same sky as him. How could it be so fast? How could it be so fast? Didn't they say that the demon fox was very, very powerful? Yes. Didn't they say that the demon fox's ability was at the pinnacle of the supreme saint level, comparable to a saint lord's combat power? She even has the ability to change forms. How could she be so useless? Let's get straight to the battle situation. How many experts were sent out? Millions of imperial guards were sent out. Wouldn't it be a piece of cake to capture the demon fox then? With such a military force, no matter how powerful her combat power is, she won't be of any help to the overall situation. Sigh, countless demonic beasts were disappointed and unwilling. Their hearts were filled with reluctance. It was such a waste of such an opportunity. Yin Yang, on the other hand, immediately felt that something was amiss. The previous news was too advantageous to him, allowing him to stir up trouble smoothly. He followed the demon emperor's order and went with the flow, stirring up this bloody catastrophe of the demon race. As long as he, the source, was not dealt with, there would be no end to this catastrophe. Now, however, he had suddenly taken drastic measures to stop everything. It was too abnormal. It was completely different from the demon emperor's style of doing things that Yun Yang knew. It was as if he had become a different person, a demon. Moreover, he was a very intelligent demon who could see through the big picture. An intelligent demon? In the past, people often said that one was as intelligent as a demon, and Yin Yang had been praised as being as intelligent as a demon. However, Yin Yang felt that he had not met any demon that could be considered a worthy opponent during this trip to the demon race. Not even the Demon Emperor was an exception. In fact, the current Demon Emperor was an idiot. It could be seen from the Demon Emperor's order that Yin Yang had used to its fullest potential. Now, however, the Demon Emperor's order from the Demon Emperor's palace had surprised Yin Yang. Apart from the surprise, there were still many thoughts that lingered in his mind. How could he fish in troubled waters after what they had done? But it was still not right. If the Demon Emperor himself had such wisdom, the first demon decree would not have been sent out of the Demon Emperor palace. So now, the other demon decree directly took drastic measures and destroyed his plan to set the prairie ablaze with sparks. Who was it? Could there be a great demon in the Demon Emperor's court who could change the Demon Emperor's decision? Was it not said that the Demon Emperor's ability was astonishing and that he was the top of the demon race? Now that a wise person had entered the fray, he had to be cautious. Yin Yang stopped his preaching journey at once and quickly left the team he had just joined. He then sprinted tens of thousands of miles in an extremely short amount of time. He then made a turn and sprinted back for another 7,000 miles. Along the way, he kept changing his identity, his appearance, and his race background. In total, Yin Yang had killed 15 demons and changed into the demon's appearance. After using it for a while, he would throw it away and change again, repeating the process. On this day, Yin Yang had changed his appearance again. He had turned into a tiger demon and walked calmly on the road. He looked no different from any other ordinary demon. However, on the surface, the fox demon's kill order had been withdrawn. In reality, the high-end tracking methods had never stopped at all. Now that the Phoenix Emperor was in charge of the situation, they were even more incisive. In reality, the demon race's tracking divine consciousness had started tracking him less than half a day after his wolf demon form left. The resourceful celestial wolf had become a new wanted criminal. Yin Yang had changed his identity 8 times and his soul wave 8 times, but it was like a parasite that he could not shake off. Then, Yin Yang changed his identity 7 times in an extremely short period of time. Only then did he finally get rid of the prickling feeling. The demon race's tracking method this time is rather terrifying. The effect is remarkable. What should I do next? Yin Yang pondered. The current situation had somewhat exceeded his expectations. It was difficult to handle. Chapter 13:12. The other party had an intelligent demon to take charge of the situation. The situation had already been reversed. Even if he was temporarily safe, there was no guarantee that he would not be overturned in an instant. 15,000 kilometers ahead was the demon imperial city. Should he go or not to go to this initial destination he had set? Also, how should he deal with his identity? If it were an existing demon race, it would be too easy for me to be discovered and ambushed. As long as there's a familiar one, what awaits me may be thousands of traps, and I may not be able to see through them. If I accidentally step into one, I will be doomed eternally. However, if it's a demon that has never shown itself, it'll be hard to be safe. Although it can ensure safety in the wilderness, it won't be of much use. However, once I enter the demon imperial city or go to other places where the demon clan gathers, I'll inevitably attract attention. In the eyes of humans, the demon clan may look the same and hard to distinguish, but in the eyes of the demon clan, it must be very easy to distinguish. This was easy to understand. Humans, for example, could easily recognize familiar people and call out their names. On the other hand, the demon clan's perception of their own clan must be the same. It was all the same. Such wishful thinking must not exist, especially when the other party has an intelligent demon. Any wishful thinking could be a fatal flaw. However, this is the core area of the demon clan. If I want to go back, I have to pass through here. Sigh, how troublesome. During this period of time, the Fox Emperor's medallion in his deific consciousness had vibrated once. Although the movement was very slight, Yin Yang still noticed it. The Fox Emperor must have known about this. He might even have participated in the search for him. After this incident, the grudge between him and the Fox Emperor would be huge. The other party would never let him go. Right now, the higher-ups of the demon race have only started a targeted search for me, and it's not that strict, but as time passes, the demon race will regain its order. Coupled with the intelligent demon race and the Fox Emperor, who are peak experts in this world, the leeway for me to escape will be even more limited. Yun Yang sucked in a deep breath. He stared into the distance. Demon Imperial City. It seemed that he had to make a trip to this city. Did they not say that the most dangerous place was the safest? He would try to get closer and test the waters. In Demon Imperial City. The Phoenix Emperor sat cross-legged and scrutinized a portrait in her hand. It was the portrait of Yun Yang that the Fox Emperor had sent to the Phoenix Emperor through telepathy. There was also the word Yun Yang written on his palm. After a moment, he closed his eyes and solemnly closed his palms. There was an inexplicable feeling that he should be very familiar with this name, but he knew very well that he had absolutely no idea about this Yun Yang. The Phoenix Emperor's thoughts raced through her mind as she came to a sudden realization. The only explanation was that her physical manifestation had once had some sort of connection with Yun Yang. However, when he was cultivating the outer body incarnation, he had divided into 9 incarnations. So far, 8 of them had successfully returned. Only the last incarnation seemed to have gone wrong. In fact, when this incarnation was first created, it was different from the other incarnations because it disappeared directly from the demon realm. As the main body, he only had one feeling, and that was that this incarnation had gone to the lower realm. At that time, apart from the initial shock, all that was left was joy. Other than knowing where the incarnation had gone, it must be in another part of the bound of universe that had been separated by the God of Universe. It was also because the incarnation had gone to another part of the bound of universe that the demon race's future did not have to be limited to the bound of universe's human race. There could be other places. In the process of replying to her clones, the Phoenix Emperor learned much about the situation in the Tianxian continent on the other side, including how the cultivation base level of this realm was extremely backward. The ones with the highest cultivation base were merely the weakest in the bound of universe. However, the Phoenix Emperor also realized that she could not descend with her real body. If she were to cross over forcefully, she would trigger some special backlash. Recalling that the Tianxian continent and the bound of universe used to be one but had been separated by the God of Universe's sword, the Phoenix Emperor dared not act recklessly. She only ordered her clones to collect the items that could allow her real body to descend. When the time was right, she could cross over with a single step and rule the world. With the cultivation base level of the Tianxian continent, her clones would definitely be successful. It was only a matter of time before her real body arrived. However, other than the beginning, the Phoenix Emperor could also control her clones and receive a considerable amount of information. She knew that her clones had created an organization called the Four Seasons Tower that was awe-inspiring and dominated the world. For this, she had specially rewarded her clones with a nirvanic soul. It ensured that even if the Avatar encountered extreme danger, even if it was killed by the other party, the Avatar's soul would still be preserved. Even after a long time, the Avatar could still be reborn with its memories and reconnect with the Avatar. Thanks to the Phoenix Emperor's clones' innate cultivation base, the clones had only been killed once throughout the years. Later on, when they reached the end of their lifespans, they disintegrated automatically. This plan had coincidentally worked, allowing the Phoenix Emperor's real body to continuously receive reports from her clones. It made the Phoenix Emperor yearn for the other world more and more. However, when the Phoenix Emperor felt that his cultivation base had reached its peak and that as long as he recalled his last clones, he would possess the ability to cross realms and descend, he had inexplicably lost contact with his clones. That situation was probably, other than the fact that his spirit could still sense and confirm that his clones still existed, everything else was completely out of his control. How intelligent was the Phoenix Emperor? He instantly came to a conclusion, and that was that his clone had developed his own emotions. He decided to only be a clone. He wanted to be the master of the clan and be independent. This situation was F***ed up. The path of cloning followed the master and follower the most. The main body's control over his clones was extremely strong. There had never been a case of a clone betraying the main body and attempting to act on its own. In his rage, the Phoenix Emperor had the sudden thought to destroy the clones on the other side. Although he would lose a considerable portion of his gains, the Phoenix Emperor estimated that it would still be enough for him to cross realms. However, what surprised him once again was that his destruction did not have much of an effect. The distance between two realms could actually greatly obstruct the main body's control over his clones. Finally, although the Phoenix Monarch's intent to destroy had heavily injured the clone and caused it to lose the exclusive ability of the Phoenix tribe, from then on, the Phoenix Monarch's control over the clone was only left with a faint sense of it. This situation continued until recent years. One day, unexpectedly, the sense was completely cut off. At first, the Phoenix Emperor had thought that the clone had used some technique to completely cut off his sense, but he had unexpectedly received the return of the clone's power. The only possibility for this situation was, the clone had died. And the clone's spirit that had finally returned was only a ball of soul energy, which was filled with chaos and haze. The Phoenix Emperor had tried to extract information from it, but it was a pity that his repeated attempts were in vain. The Phoenix Emperor's rage was no small matter. He had no idea what had happened on the other side. Why had his clone, which had existed for countless years, disappeared just like that? All that was left was a ball of soul energy and a little bit of special sense. What the F***ck was this? This matter was the Phoenix Emperor's greatest humiliation in his lifetime. It was also the first time in his life that he had been so embarrassed that he could not show his face. The clone that he had created, the clone that should have been loyal to him, had inexplicably developed its own emotions, rejecting him and rebelling against him. It had even succeeded, causing him to be helpless for countless years. If this matter were to spread, the Phoenix Emperor felt that he would die of embarrassment. That was why he had not mentioned it all these years. He was too ashamed to mention it. Even someone as close as the Dragon Emperor did not know that the Phoenix Emperor had such a history. Yin Yang's name had actually triggered the tiny sense of the clone's chaotic soul energy, giving him an unfamiliar sense of familiarity. The Phoenix Emperor's eyes shone brightly. This Yin Yang might be a fated opportunity for him. If my art of 9 phoenixes could return completely, I could allow my true form to reach the level of the Phoenix ancestor back then. If that's the case, no one in this world would be a match for my palm. It's a pity that I'm missing a phoenix. It's a regret that can never be made up for. Who was it that schemed against me back then? The Phoenix Emperor closed his eyes in deep thought. Who was it that allowed my clone to develop the ability to act autonomously? Who was it that severed the link between me and my clone? The mere distance of 2 realms can't make me lose contact completely. In the end, who was it that killed my clone? These are all mysteries. However, I have all the memories of those clones that have returned in the past. This Yin Yang, he gave me a sense of familiarity, but I didn't know him. He must be an important opponent of the clone that had disappeared. He might even be the final opponent that killed the clone. Unless it's someone who's closely related, it's impossible to trigger the last bit of feeling left in the clone. However, my clone has been separated for tens of thousands of years. According to the Fox Emperor, this Yin Yang is only in his 20s at most. How could he be my clone's opponent? What's more killing him? However, the reality now is that this Yin Yang is still alive, but my clone is dead. Calculating the moment when my divine sense was severed, it should have been 4 years ago. 4 years ago, this Yin Yang would have just turned 20, or perhaps only 19. This young man, at such a young age, was able to destroy my clone that had been operating in the Tianxian continent for a long time. It's obvious that he's a rare genius. Perhaps I should say, this is the son of the unknown realm, the chosen one. Such a fellow can cause great destruction no matter where he is. His future prospects are limitless. Based on this, even if he only has the cultivation base of a supreme saint now, it's necessary to raise him to the same level. This is because such a chosen one will not only have some innate abilities, but he'll also have too many fortuitous encounters. Even his luck will be 1,000,000 times better than that of ordinary cultivators. If he's not careful, even a Saint Lord would have a hard time capturing him. The Phoenix Emperor's mind was extremely calm at this moment. He began to calculate just from this little bit of familiarity, and his deductions went as far as the eye could see. According to the Crane Emperor, no demon saw him come out after he entered the underground dungeon of Celestial Crown City. But he came out inexplicably. I originally thought that he really was the demon crown prince and had a way to deal with the underground dungeon. But now, it seems that although he's not a demon, he does have a way to deal with the underground dungeon. Also, his ability to transform might not be limited to transforming into other species of mystical beasts. He might even have the ability to turn invisible. Along the way, he was able to bring out a lot of good stuff from the Crane Clan, Eagle Clan, and Rock Clan, and it just so happened that those clans needed it urgently. To do this, other than doing a lot of investigation beforehand, he also needs to have a special ability to deal with this, which is the ability to produce these things. This ability is a little terrifying. You should know that the Rock Emperor and Eagle Emperor didn't just get physical objects, they also had planting methods. But with just a thought, all the spiritual plants turned into ashes, leaving nothing behind. It's really terrifying. After that, he transformed into a wolf demon and took advantage of the loophole in the Demon Emperor's edict to stir up trouble. It's enough to show that this person is bold, meticulous, and decisive. How can an ordinary person be so decisive and make use of every opportunity that comes his way? And once he noticed that the demon clan was reacting strangely, he disappeared immediately. This person's way of doing things is terrifyingly cautious. He's brave, resourceful, and audacious to the extreme. He also possesses the destiny of the Son of the Dimension and the Chosen One. Coupled with his unpredictable methods, as well as the ability to accelerate plant growth, if I underestimate such an enemy, the Phoenix Emperor closed his eyes and thought quietly. If I were him, what would I do when faced with such a situation? Where would I go? If I were that Yun Yang, the Phoenix Emperor pondered. That intelligent celestial wolf that he had transformed into earlier. Although the direction he went in seemed messy, the actual general direction could still be seen to be towards the Demon Imperial City. This also means that when he realized that he was gradually cornered and had nowhere to go, his choice was to come to the Demon Imperial City, which seemed to be the most dangerous place, to look for a chance to escape. The Phoenix Emperor's thoughts were so meticulous that they were as tight as a dragnet. As he pondered, he substituted his own thoughts into Yun Yang's, calculating intensely. If I were him, I'd know that I'd been exposed when I realized that the Demon Emperor's edict was constantly changing and the two were vastly different. It'd be inevitable for me to disguise myself and escape at once. Under such circumstances, would I still follow the original plan and come to the Demon Imperial City? Would Yun Yang consider that there's a wise enemy coveting the Demon Imperial City, making the so-called most dangerous but actually safest place no longer safe? The Phoenix Emperor hesitated on this question for a long time. His final conclusion was 70%. He judged that there was a 70% chance that Yun Yang would still come to the Demon Imperial City. However, compared to before the incident with the intelligent celestial wolf, it was a full 30% less. This meant that before that, Yun Yang would definitely come to the Demon Imperial City. Chapter 13:13. The Phoenix Emperor frowned. Even if he messes up half of the Demon Peacock's realm, it won't be as effective as messing up Demon Peacock City. Only when Demon Peacock City is in chaos will he have the chance to continue fishing in troubled waters. At the very least, he can create a gap and escape. So, he'll definitely come before that. But now, it's obvious that this side is on guard, and this person is an extremely cautious person, then the possibility of him not coming is at least 30%, therefore, there's at least a 20% chance that he'll go somewhere else, such as my Foam City. Without my presence, Feng City's threat to him will be greatly reduced. What I've thought of, he'll probably be able to think of it as well. It won't be easy. Thinking of this, the Phoenix Emperor could not help feeling a tinge of regret. If he had known that the other party was such a troublesome character, he would have let the matter of the celestial wolf continue for a while longer. Although letting it develop might add millions of demon casualties, it could guarantee that Yun Yang would definitely enter Demon Peacock City. At that time, as long as the Heaven's Sealing Formation came, he would definitely be able to kill this fiend. Right now, in the eyes of the Phoenix Emperor, even if the number of casualties was increased tenfold, as long as he could kill Yun Yang, it would be worth it. Yes, Yin Yang's value in the Phoenix Emperor's eyes was just that high. Even if the demon race uses all their strength, the scope of a Heaven's Sealing Formation that can target a Supreme Saint's strength can at most seal off a city. There's only one way to keep this human here and get rid of him. Restrict him to a city. Once this strategy is unable to be achieved, there won't be another chance. Thinking of this, the Phoenix Emperor hesitated no more and said, "Send the order. The little demon is here. Send a portrait of Yun Yang to every frontline troop of the Crimson Soul Mountain." These portraits were directly created by the Fox Emperor using his own soul imprint. Each of them was exactly the same as Yun Yang himself, possessing both form and spirit, and their appearances were exactly the same. Even if Yun Yang saw it himself, he would only feel that he was looking at a mirror. Whoever let this human escape will be punished and punished by the law. This crime cannot be pardoned. Yes. Every clan must send out 3 Saint Sovereign level experts at the same time they receive the order. They are to gather at the Demon Imperial City within a day. Then, they will be sent to the Blood Soul Mouth to await further orders. Yes. Send the order immediately, at the fastest speed. Yes. The Phoenix Emperor exhaled softly. No matter how powerful you are, I will first seal off all your escape routes. Even if you stay in the demon realm and cause chaos here, as long as you can't leave, I'll catch you sooner or later. After figuring everything out, the Phoenix Emperor left the small house where he was in seclusion and headed to the Demon Imperial Palace. He immediately called for a meeting of all the emperors to report the situation. Is this really necessary? All the demon emperors were in disbelief at the Phoenix Sovereign's suggestion. The other party is just a wholly venerate human. Is there a need to make such a big fuss? Your Majesty Phoenix Emperor, aren't you making a big fuss out of nothing? Yes, it really isn't necessary. Lord Phoenix Sovereign, the amount of demonic power that your plan requires is too extreme. Apart from the Saint Monarchs guarding the Blood Soul Mouth, all the Saint Monarchs of the demon race are gathered in one place. Even we have to participate. Such a battle power is already enough to destroy a country. And such a grand plan is just for a Saint Venerable level human? Phoenix Emperor, are you really not joking? The dozens of emperors from various races who attended the meeting all looked disapproving. Had the Phoenix Emperor lost his mind? A few of them muttered inwardly, has the Phoenix Emperor, who hasn't participated in battles for years, lost his courage? Facing a human holy venerate cultivator, he's already scared to this extent? Even if a holy venerate cultivator's ability is not to be underestimated and is considered the pinnacle of combat power in the demon race, if we were to rank the actual combat power, I'm afraid that even the top 5,000 in the demon imperial realm might not be able to match up to that Yun Yang. The Leopard Emperor grinned and shook his head. Phoenix Emperor, Brother Phoenix, how long has it been since you last fought a human? The meaning behind his words was clear and unambiguous. He was accusing the Phoenix Emperor of making a mountain out of a molehill and wasting his demonic energy. Even the Demon Emperor was guffawing from his throne. I say, Brother Phoenix, are you sure you're serious? Just for a human lad like this, you actually... Ha 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 ha. Are you planning to make me die of laughter so that you can usurp my throne? Ha 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 ha. Following the Demon Emperor's jeering, the rest of the Demon Emperors threw their heads back and guffawed without exception. The Phoenix Emperor, on the other hand, was as calm as the abyss. The Fox Emperor was also deep in thought, not speaking for a long time. The others who did not laugh were the Eagle Emperor, the Rock Emperor, the Eagle Emperor, and the Crane Emperor. The others could laugh heartily, but these 4 emperors did not have the right to laugh. This was especially so for the Eagle Emperor, the Rock Emperor, and the Eagle Emperor. After listening to the Phoenix Emperor's suggestion and recalling the demonic fox's performance that day, they vaguely felt that the Phoenix Emperor's suggestion was actually very reasonable. The Phoenix Emperor snorted and said faintly, "This matter is decided." As he spoke, he glanced sideways at the Demon Emperor on the throne and walked up step by step. The Demon Emperor, who was laughing heartily, instantly looked shocked. "Ah. What do you want to do? Come down first," the Phoenix Emperor said in a deep voice. The Demon Emperor stood up. "Brother, this is a meeting. Let's not mess around," the Phoenix Emperor said angrily. "Are you coming down or not?" All the sovereigns below were completely dumbfounded. Although all the demons had experienced great storms, and some of them had even encountered demons who had plotted to usurp the throne and take over the throne, it was definitely the first time that the Phoenix Emperor had done it so openly and without any disguise. "Boss, you're in front of everyone now. How are you going to shut everyone up?" All the demons were waiting for the Demon Emperor's counterattack. Based on their understanding of the Demon Emperor's violent personality, a battle of the century was inevitable. No matter how much the Demon Emperor said that he loved the Phoenix Emperor, he did not care about that. This was a blatant attempt to usurp the throne. The Phoenix Emperor pulled the Demon Emperor down and threw him to the side. She sat on the throne and injected a surge of demonic power into it, taking out the demon jade seal from the throne. Then, she stood up and said, "All right, sit down." All the demons were dumbfounded. What was going on? Why didn't the Demon Emperor make a move? He had already taken the Demon Emperor's jade seal. As long as the Phoenix Emperor injected the demonic essence into the jade seal, this usurpation of the throne would come to an end. The Demon Emperor had changed hands. The Demon Emperor was so angry that his nose was in the air. He said coldly, "You want me to sit down just because you want me to? I'm not going to sit down. Look at this seat. You might as well just sit there and not move." All the demons were dumbfounded again. "Ah, what did the Demon Emperor say?" The Phoenix Emperor snorted and stood on the left side of the throne with the jade seal. He said, "I'm not in the mood to talk to you now. I'll just explain a little. If you understand, do it. If you don't understand, you have to do it. If there is any delay, you will be punished with the crime of rebellion. That crime is unpardonable. Now that the Demon Emperor's seal is in my hands, I will stamp it down. Understand, everyone?" All the emperors below were still dumbfounded. What kind of trick was this? The Phoenix Emperor was already so domineering and was about to use the jade seal. Yet, the Demon Emperor didn't care at all and didn't have any intention to stop it. He even stood at the side with a look of grievance on his face. What were you feeling wronged for? The emperors were shocked by the show in front of them. It was as if they had fallen into a fog and didn't know what was going on. Was the demon in front of them still the domineering Demon Emperor who dominated the world? The eyes of many emperors lit up and gradually became ambiguous. They touched their chins and pondered. These two seemed to have a special relationship. The Phoenix Emperor didn't know what this guy was thinking. If he knew, he would definitely kill this bunch of bastards on the spot. He didn't know how to put in effort when he was doing something serious. He really had a way of blindly thinking. Let me explain. Everyone, listen carefully. I will explain this once. Firstly, this person has the ability to change. This kind of transformation ability is not limited to the transformation of ordinary saints and venerables. That kind of transformation is limited to the appearance of others, but the spiritual essence of the body cannot be changed. However, this person's transformation ability has the ability to change the nature of the body. This can be seen from the fact that the Eagle Emperor, the Rock Emperor, and the Eagle Emperor were unable to see through the other party's true body when they were in close contact with him. I speculate that this should be a strange ability that is beyond the knowledge of the past. The Phoenix Emperor's eyes were like lightning. Such a strange ability is very difficult to grasp. And once it is used well, it can only be done by a peerless genius. It can be said that it may not be seen even in 1,000,000 years. Secondly, although this person's cultivation level is only at the Saint Venerate level, he is at most 25 years old. This means that he only used a little over 20 years to advance to the Saint Venerate level. This kind of advancement is not worth paying attention to. I even suspect that this person is a heaven's chosen one of the human world. This time, his actions against the demon race are intentional. Thirdly, this person also has the magical ability to casually create the things that the demon race needs the most. It is also the existence of this ability that allowed his plot to succeed. This is also an extremely magical ability. And to have such an ability, not only has it already surpassed the people of our generation, it is also almost unimaginable. At least, in my opinion, this person is not an exaggeration to be the legendary son of the dimension. Fourthly, this person has thought deeply and planned carefully before taking action. He is reliable in his actions. When he sees that the situation is not good, he does not hesitate at all and immediately escapes thousands of miles away. He is extremely courageous. If the demon power targeted is not enough, the so-called capture is just a joke. Fifthly, this person has not reached the Saint Venerate level, but he can make the Eagle Emperor, the Rock Emperor, and the other powerful people completely unable to see anything strange about him. If we do not take appropriate measures to target him, I'm afraid that even if he appears in front of us, we may not be able to discover him. Now, is there still any demon that thinks that I have rashly mobilized such a large force and made a mountain out of a molehill? The Phoenix Sovereign spoke slowly, bit by bit. The faces of the sovereigns began to turn ugly bit by bit, gradually losing their demonic aura. The Phoenix Sovereign's voice paused for a moment before it rang out indifferently again. Everyone, we have all cultivated step by step from the very beginning. Every single one of you here has cultivated to the level of a Saint Venerable. There's no need to mention how many years it took for any of you here to cultivate to the level of a Saint Venerable. The shortest would probably take at least 2,000 years, wouldn't it? This human brat called Yun Yang is only in his 20s, but he already has the cultivation base of a second-level pinnacle Supreme Saint. Furthermore, his combat power far exceeds his cultivation base. So many Supreme Saints have fallen in his hands. How shocking and eye-catching is that? Yin Yang thought to himself. He is in his 20s, at most a few years of cultivation. You don't have to calculate this, do you? Then, you should know how big the gap between you and him is, right? When you were at the pinnacle of a second-level Supreme Saint, have you ever killed a Supreme Saint expert of a higher level than you? Has anyone killed a peak 4th grade Saint Venerable? Then, who still dares to say that this human named Yun Yang is insignificant and can't even withstand a single blow? How many years do you think it will take for him to become a Supreme Saint? About a few years later, will he be a threat to the safety of everyone here? The sovereigns' faces turned pale, looking increasingly unpleasant. Who could say for sure? According to this advancement speed, it might take another 30 to 50 years, but did that person really need 30 to 50 years? Once this person becomes a Supreme Saint, everyone, the demon race will be in deep trouble. The Phoenix Sovereign's voice became heavy. What is a heaven's chosen one? What is a dimension's child? Everyone, let me give you an example. The Phoenix Sovereign cupped her hands towards the void. Back then, Lord Monkey Ancestor, who established this continent for the demon race and made an agreement with the rulers of the heavens, was a heaven's chosen one. The sovereigns were shocked. Those rulers of the heavens, the gods of creation, are also heaven's chosen one. The Phoenix Sovereign said faintly, as for us, we may be the chosen one or the heroes of a region, but we are not heaven's chosen one. The level that a heaven's chosen one can reach is a height that we dare not even imagine. In your imagination, a cultivator who is only a second-level Supreme Saint now, no matter how hard he strives to improve, would still need at least 30 to 50 years to reach the level of a supreme saint. What I want to say is that if he is determined to improve, he won't need such a long time at all. It could be 8 to 10 years, or 3 to 5 years, or even a year and a half, and he could take a huge step forward as a heaven's chosen one. This is the heaven's chosen one's innate destiny, fortuitous encounter, and everything that goes beyond the understanding of ordinary people. Here, I can also say with absolute certainty that if this human named Yun Yang is not captured or killed by us this time, then the one who will annihilate the demon race in the future will definitely be this person. As long as this person lives, there will be a day when the billions of citizens of the demon peacock realm will be slaughtered by him. The extinction of the demon race is definitely not a joke. Now, does anyone have any questions or objections? The Phoenix Sovereign's gaze swept across the sovereigns below. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.